Hey, everybody, this is Steve, Uncle Creepy Barton, and you're listening to What an Excellent Day for a Podcast. And you know what? It sure fucking is.
What an excellent day for an podcast.
Evening, all. JC here from What an Excellent Day for a Podcast, and us nerds are giddy when it comes to our special guest tonight. Having just finished his amazing book, Comedy of Tragedies, I learned a few things. What is it, you may ask? Well, let me please enlighten you, dear listeners. Ready? Here we go. Follow along now. I've learned that only a select few can bring a bat to a fight and then hand it over to the person you're fighting with to use. Talk about fucking intimidation. You can, in fact, take the newscast from Night of the Living Dead and, if timed properly, create your own little War of the Worlds broadcast segment. A lobster is, in fact, a bug, just one that lives in the sea. There is someone else in the world who gives every motherfucker who crosses him the Malokia. Glad I wasn't alone. Windex can absolutely clean any type of pasta sauce off of any fucking surface. Guaranteed. Come to think of it, nuns do fucking kind of float, don't they? Are tiny lizards actually doing push-ups as a way to say, hey, you there, fuck around and find out? And yes, those fucking horseshoe crabs are alien-like. Finally, and most importantly, I learned that this man has a heart as big as the fucking horror community he has always pledged to serve. A man who grew up hard, whose strength was fueled by life's challenges, and who, against all odds, has emerged a winner in life. Please welcome to the show the man, the myth, the fucking Comedy of Tragedies legend, and after reading his chapter 24, my new fucking life coach, Mr. Steve, Uncle Creepy Barton.
Hey,
Sir, we appreciate your time.
I don't even know what to say. I can say that was probably the single greatest intro I think I have ever had.
Thank you, sir.
That was fucking amazing. And funny, like real, like, you know what's funny? It's like I wrote that shit, but when I hear someone else say it, I realize how absurd it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I hope none of my bosses are listening, but I wrote that this afternoon during work.
Hey,
I got to multitask.
Don't forget, I'm the guy that fucking put on construction noise to get out of a meeting.
Yes, you did, and it worked. So I guess the first question is, just having your autobiography out now for public consumption over a month, how's it impact? What's that impact been like for you?
It's really weird, man. Because let me be perfectly honest about something, as if I wasn't honest enough. I didn't intend for anybody to read that shit. You know what I mean? I didn't write that for anybody but me. What I was doing was I was trying to do the psychological thing, right? Like get all your demons out and then burn it or delete it or whatever, and then it's gone. And that's what I was doing. And if I wasn't doing it like that, I may not have been as descriptive as I am about some of the things. But I had written half of it, and I had written all the stuff pre Uncle Creepy, and of course, my life blew up again as it does. And I ended up moving back to the East Coast, which is where I met you, sexy bitches.
I love it.
And, I ended up marrying a woman who's way out of my league because I'm psycho and I luck into things. And one day we were sitting here and she comes in and I'm sitting here working right where I am right now. And she's like, hey, that thing you were writing, can I read it? And I was like, what the fuck for? You married me. You know everything, I'm like, what do you want to give it to your parents as like a background check? Here, don't waste your money. It's all here. So I'm like, okay. And she's like, I'm just curious. So I sent it to her and she disappeared upstairs for a little while. And intermittently, I would hear her laughing or I would hear her crying. And I'm like, fuck, what did I do? Right? So a few hours pass and she comes back downstairs and I immediately look at her hands to see if there was divorce paperwork because I wouldn't have like blamed her. And there wasn't. and she pulled up the chair next to me and she's like, you can't delete this. You can't burn this. You have to put this out there. And I'm like, well, why? She goes, and she said, I've heard people talk about these things 100 times, but I've never heard anyone ever put things the way that you put them. There's so much honesty behind the things you've said. And I really believe that this book has a chance to help people, especially people who feel alone. Because, dude, I felt alone my whole life. I had to create things just to feel like I belonged somewhere. And with that in mind, it took another 2 years, but I finished it. And the only changes I made was I had to go back I didn't delete anything. And I went back to the original, I guess, where it started. And I just rephrased a few things so it would end up reading like a book. You know what I mean? So I didn't delete anything. I just added to it to make it, I guess, digestible. And then I wrote the intro and I'm like, I don't know what this fucking thing is. And yeah, I was just gonna put it out myself. I was gonna self-publish it. And then my friend Josh Milliken, who had taken over for me when I told Dread Central to eat a bag of dicks, he was like one of the only people to ever revere what I had done with Dread Central. And I always appreciated that. So he has gone on to become a writer and author in his own right. And he's like, hey, man, can I read this? And I think he just mainly wanted to read it to see what I said about Dread Central. And that turned out to be true because he was like, oh, man, I'm glad somebody finally said something. He's like, dude, what are you doing with this? And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm just going to self publish it. She goes, don't do that. And again, I'm like, well, why? You know what I mean? Why is everybody telling me not to do this shit? But do it. And he sent it to his publisher at Encyclopocalypse. And the next day I got a phone call and I'm talking to Sean and his partner, and they're like, yeah, man, we want to put this out. I'm like, well, did you read it? He's like, well, no. So they wanted to put it out because Uncle Creepy wrote it. And I'm like, I think you better read it first because this isn't like it's not, it is me sitting around the fucking table regaling you with stories of the horror industry, but it's so much more than that.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I don't think you should put this out without knowing exactly what it is. And 2 weeks later, he's like, okay, now we have to put this out. And I was like, really? And to be honest, I've been a nervous wreck. Not that I'm worried about what people are going to think about me or anything like that. But I obviously, I'm pretty sure the message was clear that I don't. But I think what made me nervous about it was I admitted shit in that book that no one would ever willingly admit into like anybody, not even like some of their best friends. But I did it again because when I was writing it, I was talking to myself, I wasn't talking to anyone else. And there was a moment, to be honest, I was like, do I go back and alter some of that shit? Do I change it? And then, like, that's too much fucking work. I'm lazy and want to play Xbox. I ain't doing that. Right. So when I started work on the second half of the book, being that the first half was so open, I just said, fuck it. I'm going to let it bleed. And I was worried. I think my main worry was just like, it made me feel pompous, because I'm like, what makes me think that my life is so important or unusual or whatever to write a book about it, much less expect people to read it. I'm a very humble person. I never put myself beyond anybody. So that's made me nervous. And plus, this was the only thing I've ever done that was strictly for me. This was nothing else. Nobody was getting anything out of this but me. And that's the only time I've ever done something like that. And that ended up being kind of terrifying. And this is my long-winded answer for that one question you gave me 45 minutes ago.
No, all good. All good.
The reaction has been beyond anything anyone could have hoped for. I had this at that one convention I saw you guys at where JC was visiting with his dad. Like this, about like an hour after you guys left, this guy came up to me. He's probably around my age. And he's like, dude, you're my hero. I read your book. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, how am I supposed to process that? And he's like, can I hug you? can we take a picture? I'm like, yeah, of course we can. Yeah, that's weird to me, you know? And people write me every day. I get some sort of feedback of thanking me and saying that they found the book inspirational and the book helped them. And you know what? I mean, I'm not going to lie. I still have those demons rattling around in here. They're never going to go away. But hearing from people unexpectedly has calmed them down a bit, you know? It
Sure.
really, they really have. It's been
Kind
an
of therapeutic, right? To go through it.
totally, and I didn't expect that. But then again, I didn't know what to expect. I know there's a few people who are very angry with me that I called them on their bullshit. That's not my problem. Maybe you should have not been an asshole. You know, I mean, I don't know what else to say. But beyond that, but it's been one of the most gratifying things I've ever done. And people are like, oh, you can do another one? I want more. And I'm like, dude, that was like current to like February. I have to live a few more years. I got nothing else to say. I mean, although I'll be honest with you, when I was toying with the idea of like, what if I'm asked to do a reading? You know, I ain't gonna read that shit again. So I kept a couple of stories out. That way, if I ever get asked to do a reading, I could give them one of those stories that aren't in the book as like a B-side. You know what I mean? And that way, it's special for them, it's special for me, and it's like a once in a lifetime thing.
Sure.
So I'm just very humbled by the reaction. You know, I read the reviews on Amazon, I read the reviews on Goodreads, and it just blows me away. I'm like, wow, you know, I never. I'm a schmuck, dude. You know, I ain't nobody special. I just got really lucky, you know. But in terms of lucky, I really think that's George and Sid that instilled that kind of humility into me, you know.
Yeah.
And I honor them by being the type of person I know they'd want me to be. One time I was sitting with George and we were bullshitting, and this was like maybe two years into our relationship. And Romero says to me, you know, Steve, I'm proud of you. You're going really far. And I'm like, well, George, you're kind of my mentor. He goes, of course I'm your mentor. You're fucking broke. And I'm like, that makes sense. So yeah, to answer your question, it's been absolutely amazing. It's so gratifying. You know, even the whole convention thing, like me signing at conventions, I never imagined I'd be doing that, you know? And it's weird to me that people were paying attention, you know? Because, you know, it's like people bring shit up for me to sign that I forgot I even worked on. Because I've done like so much shit. And I never considered myself to be worthy of going someplace and signing. I'm like, I'm used, the only time anyone ever paid attention to me is when I fucked something up. That's when I heard everything, right? But
Fucking shake and bake.
dude, oh, that motherfucker. Oh,
Motherfucker. I don't even know him. I don't like him.
dude, I dressed him down in front of his entire staff.
Oh, it was beautiful. I was reading that, man.
Don't fuck with an East Coaster, dude. We have attitudes. We don't fuck around.
That
You
is
know,
true.
you rub us the wrong way, you're gonna get an earful. And I've never been one to not give people an earful when warranted.
So what was, so you said you wrote it in like two parts, right? Like so what was easier? Was the first part easier, just kind of going through your childhood and everything growing up, or was the second part a little bit easier? Like what?
Honestly, the first part was easier, and the reason being, and I guess I fucked up, is one of the reviews was I wanted this to be a how to get in the industry book, and it's not like that, but it's, you know, and I'm like, I never said it was that, you know. Um, I think the second part was tougher just because I don't know like how much people really wanted to know about what the inner workings of running a website or doing this or doing that is. So I was very cognizant to not bore people. You know, that's why I always gave, you know, here's the snapshot. Let me describe to you what happened. You know, and I moved on to the next thing. It, I don't, in my eyes, even though I know how lucky I am, I never thought like I was living like an interesting life. To me, this was all fucking normal, especially in my younger years. You know, when I went to my friend's house when I was like 11 or 12 and shit, and it wasn't a goddamn battleground, I was like, holy fuck, what's happening here? You know, I never knew that there was a lot of really strange, extenuating circumstances going on when I was growing up. And it's been odd to see that and to come to that realization that maybe shit wasn't normal And what do you do for that? You know, how do you? I tried normalizing everything that happened as best. Michael Felcher, who's a really good friend of mine, he said, "You know, Steve, what impresses me about this book is, first of all, I didn't know you went through any of that shit because I don't talk about it. You know, only the people who are very, very, very close to me knew about any of that." He goes, "But what really impresses me about the book is you went through a fucking lot and you never complained about it once. It never once came off as woe is me." And I think that's like a huge compliment because I'm not a woe is me guy. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm on my ass again. Let's fix this one, you know? So, yeah, man, it's that for sure. The second part was more difficult to write just because I didn't want to bore anybody. You know, I mean, as weird as this childhood and teenage shit was, I knew it wasn't boring, you know? So, yeah, the second part was definitely a lot harder. And also, I withheld a lot of stories because some of the stories involve people whom I care about, who are celebrities, to use that word, which I hate using. But you know, I ain't outing anybody. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of shit that happened that was hilarious that I wouldn't include just because I have to be respectful of the people around me.
Sure.
Understood.
Understood. So one of the things that I related to a lot of it, Steve, and especially like when I mentioned in my intro, chapter 24, I'm that type of individual too. Sometimes I care too much what people think, right? And you worry about every little thing, and life's too fucking short to do that, right? So live your life and enjoy it and treasure every moment that you have with family and friends. And so that little piece at the end, like really, that's why I said life coach, because it really kind of, I related to that because I struggle with that a lot too. So, someone like yourself going through that, and you were speaking to me in that chapter, which was pretty cool.
I mean, imposter syndrome is very real, you know? I mean, you guys do a podcast, you guys do a great podcast. And I'm
Thank you.
sure you get contacted by people who listen and you're like, fuck, dude, am I qualified to be earning this kind of cred, you know? So,
You've heard us. You know what we know. Why would you want our advice?
right, you know, but there are people we never realize as people who provide entertainment the type of impact we have on people who maybe aren't in the greatest fucking moment of their life, who this bit of entertainment that we give them is what's getting them till tomorrow, you
Yeah.
know? So it's very humbling. Anytime you put out anything, whether it be a podcast or a movie or a book, fuck, anything, a fucking doodle you drew on a napkin, if it made somebody happy,
That's
it's
what it's all
important.
about.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about. Like even when like with the posters, right? I mean, those posters of those individuals that got sick, right, and couldn't go see the movie, and you took it upon yourself to get those posters to get them over. I mean, that's amazing.
my
That's
brother,
someone with a true caring heart, man. So
brother was on his deathbed, and I knew I didn't have much more time with him. And I'm the type of person, I'm very empathic. Like I could feel how people feel, you know?
yeah,
And the sadness and disappointment in those messages that I was getting was palpable to me. And I knew there was nothing I could do for my brother. There was nothing. It was over at that point. It was just the waiting game, as you well are aware. And, but I could do something about that. You know what I mean? I
sure.
could go out there and say, I'm going to make at least some sort of difference in somebody's life right now. I have that power to do that. So I'm going to jump at that chance. And I never told anyone I was doing that. I mean, I saved those emails and messages on my desktop so I knew exactly where they were. And I made sure I got enough posters to send them. And then I just asked them for their addresses and I sent them out. Then I was shit canned like 3 weeks later.
Well, that took a turn.
Yeah, well, it does, man. It really
Yeah.
does.
So you mentioned the old mom and pop video stores, right? That when VHS back in the day, I connected too because I was a big Fangoria fan.
Mm.
And and in Fangoria, as you know, you would have the selling the VHS movies for 99.95.
Mm.
And my dad bought us a fucking beta. My first
Oh,
VCR was a beta, so when I went to the video store, I had like 4 fucking movies that I could choose
wow.
from. I was like, "What are we doing here?"
That's like somebody buying you an Intellivision when you want Atari, you know? Fucking rough. Yeah,
Oh man,
that
that's
was
great.
my first job, man. I'm Italian and from Brooklyn, so of course it was a pizzeria. That's just your rite of passage. And I saved all fucking summer to buy Night of the Living Dead. And I told George that he offered to give me the money.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, I'm just that fucking guy raised me. He didn't even know it. It's amazing how weird.
yeah. He's missed for sure. Horror icon right there. Certainly missed.
110%.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
these
gonna let you
guys.
guys ask a question because I could
Nah,
keep going here.
nah.
So
I'm in a really fucked up place right now because yeah, these guys were able to read the book. Um, this is a really shitty time of year for me, so I didn't get a chance to do it. But just what you're saying so far, yeah, I got to get on that soon because yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to relate to a lot more than I originally would have. Based on our first meeting, to find out how, yeah, like just how relatable your stories are. And as far as like a rough upbringing and, you just always manage to step into shit one way or another. Yeah,
But you
I have a
know,
feeling this is going to speak to me a lot.
hope it does, because that's its purpose. In terms of, I mean, I'm not unique in that everybody has their story, and mine isn't any more palpable than anyone else's. But we all go through shit, but we don't always talk about it.
Hmm.
We keep a lot of it inside us because either we don't want to give it the credence to bring it to the surface, and deal with it, or we're just scared to, or it'll just get us angry, or whatever that is. And I was that person. I was a very angry uh, teenager, very angry young adult. And when over the years, being that I felt like in a lot of ways I had my life saved by a few individuals, um, I learned to put that shit down, man. Because the thing about baggage, I mean, we all have baggage,
Hmm.
but it's up to us how long we have to carry that shit. We could put it down and start taking our first few steps forward, but putting it down isn't as easy as just dropping it. It's tough sometimes because you feel like those things define you, but nothing defines you but you. You know,
Hmm.
pull your strings. You're the one who has to be who you are, and you're the best you there is because there's only one of you. So own that shit. Baggage, fuck it. What are you carrying it for? It's just stuff. It
Yeah,
don't matter anymore. I don't believe in making mistakes. I think a mistake is only a mistake when you don't learn from it.
exactly.
So I mean, as long as dude, I'm sure I fucked up 4 times today. I didn't even know yet. When I find out what I did wrong, I'll learn from it and I'll move on. It's all about just creating a life for ourselves that are tolerable,
Mhm.
and one we can eventually be proud of and happy in. And yeah, man, demons are a bitch. They really are. They'll beat you the fuck down. You
yeah,
don't have to be there. Only you can say, fuck this. I ain't fucking dealing with this shit no more. And stand up and give them all the finger in the Maloika,
yeah.
right? Only you could do that. So it's up to you. You just got to want to and need to.
And I
Yeah,
think that's what people get. That's what people get from reading your book, right? From learning your story and seeing and hearing and reading some of the things that you went through, and to see how you've emerged, right? That could have beaten down anybody, and to come out of it the way you have, successful is just that. I mean, it's an amazing story, so it should relate to a lot of people.
Thank you. But you know what? I feel successful in that I have my own perception of what success is. I may not be monetarily successful. I may not be uh, business wise this huge conglomerate or whatever the fuck how you define success. For me, success is defined by being able to put your head down on the pillow at night and go, did I do everything today I could have done the right way? And if the answer is yes, then you're fucking successful.
Amen. Amen.
That's the only measure of it. If you did what you could that day the right way for the right reasons, whether it makes a difference or not, you're successful.
Amen. Absolutely.
yeah, that's what you were saying about learning from lessons. That's something. Um, actually, my son brought it up to me one day. So I'm a carpenter generally, and my son came to work with me one day, and he was like 11, 12. And he's like, "How did you get so good at?" We were driving to the job, so he didn't even see me do what I do. But he's like, "How did you get so good at this?" I said, "Honestly, the only way to get good is to make mistakes and learn from it." So I said, "How did I get good? I fucked up a lot." And he was like,
Yeah.
"That's one way of putting it." And it seems to be one of the few things he actually like took away from me. Like it's okay to make a mistake as long as you get the lesson from it.
Yeah, man.
And unfortunately, too many people nowadays, they make a mistake, there if there's some consequence to it, it becomes like, oh, I'm a victim. It's like, no, you were just a lesson was put before you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Rub some dirt on it. And
Yeah,
I grew up
yeah.
in the 80s, man. Rub some dirt on it. Let's
Like
go.
George Carlin said, I swam in raw sewage. You got to put a little of that shit in the wound.
Victim no more.
There you go. There you go.
Are you involved with that?
No,
I know at the cons I saw those people and
I just saw the hat and went, wow, that's badass, and I
That
bought
is
it.
badass.
yeah.
Oh, they had that at the con?
Yeah, I guess
Nice.
the people that were involved with because what is it? Like a fan film, right?
I think
I
so.
think, yeah.
Honestly, I just loved what it said and what it stood for.
Yeah.
And I I'm always the first one to support indie artists in any endeavor, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
One of the things I wish I had growing up, because I mean, I've been involved in the horror scene one way or the other for like 30 years. I used to write a fanzine before the internet, and I had a circulation of like 20 people, but those 20 people dug it, right? And then I went to the internet, and it just always kept evolving. So it's always I wish that it was so different because I never had anybody in my life through those formative years who would just say, "Hey man, let me give you a hand up. This is
mhm.
how it's done." And I had to learn everything myself. I taught myself HTML. I taught myself how to write. I'm a fucking high school dropout with a GED. I taught myself everything I've ever needed to learn to do what it is that I do. And if I can be that person to reach down and pull somebody up, it's important to me to do that. And that's why I see it. I don't even know what that movie is, but I dug the message and I'm like, okay, I'm buying that hat, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
it to me, supporting artists is one of the most important things. It's what I've done my whole career.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'm joking to death.
So, so what are the odds of having Tony Timpone sell? Would he sell you like some Jurassic Park thingamajig, and then like,
What the fuck, dude? Right?
I mean, holy shit!
I
Was
mean,
he like? Was he editor in chief like Fangoria? Yeah, right.
I would go to the Fangoria Weekend of Horrors
Yeah,
like
me too.
every few months.
So you
And
guys probably met years ago and didn't even know it.
Yeah, I used to
Back when
frequent the
you
Chiller theaters, the
yeah, me
Fangoria
too,
convention.
man.
Yeah,
back
absolutely.
when you both had hair.
I,
I'm gonna be 52 next month.
I
So,
am 52 right now. I'm gonna be 53 in June.
okay.
But yeah, man, it just goes to show you how strange life is.
Yeah,
When this dude turned a corner and I'm like, that Tony, you
that's
know,
wild.
and he walks up to me, he hands me a fucking hunk of cardboard. You press a button and it roars. I'm like, holy shit, you're Tony Timpone. And it just listen, academically speaking, I'm useless. You know, uh, being handy, I'm pretty much useless. But when it comes to the horror genre, I know my shit. You know, I know shit. There's no reason for me to know. I can't even do like my fucking 8 times table without counting on my fingers. That's why my wife does all the math in the house. Anyway,
I read that too. Numbers.
like fuck that, dude. That's my Achilles heel. I don't want no part of that. And it's just been it. I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I kept having these situations thrown in front of me, and whether it be some otherworldly help or whatever, I don't know. I've always managed to walk through the doors, or at least push my way through the door. I don't let opportunities slip me by because I don't have anything. You know what I mean? I grew up having nothing. Okay. And I'm very good at living with absolutely just the barest of essentials. So if I can get an opportunity to work for Fangoria, even though I wasn't getting paid, it's just that's a dream of mine. I never expected Dread Central to take off. I didn't expect any of that shit. It was a glorified hobby for me. I didn't make money at Dread Central till like 8 years in. You know, I mean, I was working at fucking GameStop selling fucking Mario Kart all day. You know what I mean? And then I would get off of work and I'd update the site all fucking day and night long, and it turned into a business. And it was insanity. It just goes to show you that if you're paying attention and you want something really bad, you can get it, man. I'm an idiot. And I ended up getting a lot of the shit that I really wanted just because it's never no to me. It's always how.
Mhm.
The only
Yeah.
limitations you have to deal with and adhere to are the ones that you put on you, you know? Fuck it. Why can't you?
Yeah.
Why can't you be the best at something? Why can't you be at least very good at something? It doesn't matter as long as you're doing it and you're happy and you have the opportunities when they come by and you fucking are smart enough to take them, you'll be fine, man. But it sometimes it takes balls.
Yeah.
I'm if there's one thing I'm good at, it's walking off the edge of a cliff. I don't give a shit. I'll walk. I'll be the first one. I'll parachute. Fuck it. I don't care. Let's see what happens. You know. So, and that was just because of my upbringing, because everything was always like a constant state of stress. So I just, I'm Mister Fuck it. Let's roll the dice and see what happens. You
Yeah, it
know.
took me until almost 5 years ago to for
Are you
that
wearing a
final.
Fred Factory shirt?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that I when
Oh,
I saw your shirt, I had to go do a wardrobe change.
Oh
I
wow.
I actually I saw them put an ad up on Facebook. What, 2, 3? No, I guess 3 years ago now. Oh, looking for actors, and to go with what you said, it's like I've always wanted to work a haunt, but I'm no actor. Shit, I could barely do this.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I called them up and yeah, it was a weird, and yeah, you've been there. So they said, okay, well, here's the address, come for an audition. I'm like, oh shit, they're serious about like actors. I
Mhm.
just wanted to put some shit on my face and scare people.
It's
So
the best, right?
I go to the address. I haven't been to Philly outside of a ball game or something like that in a long time before this. So I'm hanging out in South Philly. I walk into this warehouse, down into the basement. There's a black leather sofa and three guys sitting at a table. I'm like, what fucking audition did I walk into?
This is the scariest version of American Idol ever.
Yeah, it's oh yeah, unfortunately I watch maybe the wrong websites that yeah, I jumped to conclusions with that sofa. But yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, come into the back room with us." And I was like, "Okay." And then it was a 5 minute Q&A. Oh, why do you want to do this? Oh, because of this and all. So I ended up working that whole, I worked that season, and then afterwards it was like mid-October and they said, "Oh, has anybody heard of the Terrifier movies?" And here this was the haunt season right after they shot the second one. And I remember like in the first one, so I was like, "Oh my God, that's really cool." And then I actually a couple weeks into it, it was probably like end of September, early October, they asked if we had any other people, if we knew anybody else who wanted to do it. Fast forward, I got my son involved with it. And I was like, that clown movie I showed you? They shot the sequel in this building. And he was just like, "Oh, cool." So we ended up doing it, and then apparently they had like Damien and David, and I think a couple of the girls come. They just said they were having a bunch of people, but Halloween was always very sacred. So it was like, I'm not going to bail on him trick or treating, as bad as I want to do this. So that was like the one night I wasn't there. Yeah, great place. And then when the movie came out, I'm like, shit, I worked in that room. I worked in that room. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
Steve, by the way, thank you for believing in that movie.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing what you did to promote that movie because it's a great franchise and I know you played a role in that. So thank you.
It's there's a little bit of revisionist history going on, which is ridiculous. And I know what I did with those movies. I know how hard I fought to get that first one released. I put my career on the line to get that first one released, all 18 years of it. And I know what I did with the second one. I took the second one to a level that was so far beyond marketing wise anyone ever even seen before that the third one could have been about art taking a shit for fucking 4 hours and it still would have made bank. And it's good to, I'm very proud of what that franchise has become. I'm
Yeah, it's
in,
amazing.
always will be. I'm very lucky to have taken that ride. It's a ride very few people ever get to take in their life. And I'm all the better for having taken it. And I'm grateful for the guys. I still love pretty much all of them, except for one. And it just is what it is, man. It goes to show you. And one of the things I was able to underscore, I think, in the book, situations don't always have that Hollywood ending, but it's okay. It's fine. It's how you deal with it and how you come out the other side. And
Yeah,
I'm a better person. I'm a smarter person, both mentally and business wise, for having worked on Terrifier and Terrifier 2.
sure.
I'm sorry for backpedaling, and well, I don't know if that's the right word, but and and if it's in the book, I'm sorry.
It's
Like I
fine.
said, I will be reading it, but I get the bonus of hearing it from you. But as generic as it is, what was your awakening from a fan's point of view as far as horror? What gave you that spark that you were all in?
Chapter one
Oh,
of the book, actually. You
thanks for the
want,
heads up, JC.
you
Hey,
want,
listen to my fucking intro.
you definitely want
Oh, so all right, all right.
it was. I'll tell you the story real quick. I'm a fucking night owl, dude. I've always been a night owl. When everyone else is like, even when I was like 3 years old, which is how old I was, my brother and I had gotten into the habit of when we heard our parents snoring, we would sneak into the living room, right? And back then in the 70s, we had this giant ass black and white console TV, the kind of TV that when it broke, you just said, fuck it, and put a TV on top of it. And then that fucker was furniture, right?
Oh yeah,
Maybe become a fish tank at some
yeah,
point.
Whatever.
or a wine cabinet or some shit.
So my brother was away, but that wasn't going to stop me from. I knew the good shit was on in the middle of the night. You could catch, especially in the 70s, you never knew what the fuck you were going to see on TV in the middle of the night. So I heard my parents snoring and I ran into the fucking living room. And I'm not giving away, there's a bunch of other shit having to do with the story that's in the book that'll make you. But I turned on the TV and I'm flicking through the channels, and all of a sudden I saw this fucking newscast about the dead coming back to life. And my 3-year-old brain was like, holy shit, I'm the only one that knows this in this house because I'm awake, right? And then there's like, we need to get to rescue station. So I'm like, I go into fucking full blown Bruce Campbell mode before I even knew who Bruce Campbell was. I, I get up, I run into my parents' fucking bedroom, I throw on the light, and I'm like, the dead are coming and we got to get to rescue stations. And
Love
my
it.
parents looking at me like, what? And she's like, oh, you're having a nightmare. I'm like, I'm not having a nightmare. And I never got along with my dad. So to say that he was uber pissed was a little bit of an understatement because now I'm waking him up at fucking like 2 in the morning or whatever. And I grab my mom's hand and I'm fucking pulling on her for all she's worth, right? And she follows me into the living room. My dad's behind her, and he was so mad. I felt heat like radiating from behind my mother, burning the back of my body. But it was okay because I was about to be absolved because I was saving lives, motherfucker, right?
You were saving the world right at that moment.
I'm a champion right at this moment, right? So fucking, I get into the living room and I go, look. And of course, it was that scene in Night of the Living Dead. And, oh man, did I get fucked up. My dad took off his belt, dude. He fucking lamb basted me. Man slaps with this fucking leather belt with a buckle. I could still.
Mm.
And I'm laying in bed that night and I'm thinking to myself, wow, my ass hurts. Because what else are you going to think? And then my thought beyond the ass pain was, wow, I was fucking terrified, but I was safe. And that's so cool, right? So
Yeah.
it was that moment, that realization that that shit was that much fun, where I could bring myself to that level where I was almost out of my mind with fear and still be 100% safe. And it's that feel. That was the night Uncle Creepy was born.
Yeah, the birth of Uncle
Okay.
Creepy. I even put that in my note. The birth of Uncle Creepy,
That was
right
it.
there.
That,
Yeah,
that was when Uncle Creepy was born. And what Uncle, first of all, let me clear the air. I get a lot of shit for the name Uncle Creepy sometimes. Like if I'm in a video game and I go into a room with multiplayer, it's like, oh, Uncle Creepy. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, nowadays that almost has like a
What?
different implication.
Oh,
Didn't you say with the MMA fighter or some shit like that?
Jesus Christ, only me, right? Dude, let me tell you something. If you ask, like Scott Johnson, who wrote the foreword, very good friend of mine, he was there for a lot of this shit. But if I was on the outside looking in and I didn't live this shit, I would have called bullshit on like 1,800 different parts of that book, just because it's such a fucking, how in the world do I pick a name like Uncle Creepy as a pen name on a bulletin board 30 fucking years ago? And then I end up in a fucking verbal argument with an MMA fighter and his wife over using the name Uncle Creepy. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Right? That would only happen to me because it's so stupid, you know? But yes, Uncle Creepy was a character in Creepy Magazine, and he was like their crypt keeper, So
Okay.
that was a formative magazine for me when I was growing up. I used to steal it because I had no money. So I fucking, I used to love that character. And when it came time for me to pick a screen name, I picked Uncle Creepy because it was just like a no-brainer to me. And had I have known the connotations that would come along with it 30 years later, I probably would have been a little bit more selective. But the name has brought me nothing but good stuff, and I'm very proud.
Yeah,
At the
absolutely.
at the very least, it sounds like worst case, you're just getting more stories out of the name.
Oh God, what the fucking actual fuck? When that shit happened with the MMA fighter, I looked at my girl. I go, "Sit down. You're not gonna believe this,
That
right?"
was wild.
It's just Ian McCall was his name, I think. Ian McCall, and his wife was messaging me thinking I was him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, lady, I'm not your husband. I had to tell you this. But at first, I probably played it off like, okay, babe, sorry. And then sometimes, like, some MMA guy would write me out of nowhere, and he's like, yo, what do you think about this guy fighting that guy? I'm like, I'll whip both their asses. You know what I'm saying? At that point, whatever. I'm the guy that sold a haunted fucking rock on eBay. I don't give a shit.
That was classic. When I was reading that, I wanted to go outside and try to find some. So it's cursed. There you
Dude,
go.
I pulled that rock out of my front yard. I sold it for like 20 something bucks.
Oh man, I love it. What happened to that idol?
Yes.
Wish I knew.
Like, holy shit.
Dude, that was. I mean, I have an obsession with the paranormal. I do. I love that shit.
I love that about you.
I was a paranormal investigator for many years. I did that shit professionally. I was taught by Lou Gentili, who was taught by the Warrens. You know, but that's what piqued my interest because to this day, I have no fucking idea what happened. That thing was heavy. You know, it was like this big. It was about that thick, and it was heavy. And I dropped it on my front porch, and I couldn't find it ever again.
So Lou was part involved with the Warrens.
Yes,
Because I know you mentioned I forget his name, Deliver Us from Evil. Rich Sart
Ralph Sarchi.
Ralph. Yeah, yeah. Because I read a demonologist book once on the Warrens, and he was in that book as well. So they talk about some of the things.
Archie's the real deal, man. He's a scary dude. I know Ralph very well. That movie Delivers from Evil was loosely based on his life.
It was a good movie too. I mean, some people shit on it. I mean, it was all right.
You have an exorcism to fucking The Doors. I'm all in.
Exactly.
I'm playing The Doors during an exorcism.
Exactly.
Hey, you had me at hello. And won't you tell me your name? You know?
Well, that's on my bucket list. I've never done a paranormal investigation. I am absolutely
Where do you live?
salivating. What's that?
Where do you live?
I'm in Jersey.
Okay. Next time I do one, I'll let you know.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just going to hit you up to ask about, yeah, because I think the first time the four of us ever sat
That'd be
down,
awesome.
we kind of started joking. Like it was literally like, hey, let's see if we click. And actually JC threw a microphone in the middle of the table, plugged into the computer, hit record, and this was just to have like a meeting. We weren't even a show then.
Mhm.
Um, but I know it was getting thrown around like, oh yeah, someday we should do a seance. I'm like, fuck yeah, yes, absolutely. And the rest of them
No
were
fucking
like,
Ouija boards.
yeah, the rest of them were
I
like,
won't touch a weed.
well, if seriously, like, nah,
Read the
so
book and then tell me you touch a fucking Ouija
Never
board.
again.
dude,
I will
shit
never
couldn't
touch one.
shit couldn't get any worse.
Oh,
Sorry.
believe me, sir. Yes, it could.
That was like wild. That whatever that was that you saw through the front door of your apartment growing up, and I think was it Neil? It was Neil, right? And then like to have that like lingering around you, to have that, and was that the cause of some of the bad luck? That was wild when I connected the dots towards the end of the book.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I am a dyed-in-the-wool skeptic. I need to see. I need
Yeah,
to
me too. As am I.
like when somebody goes on a fucking investigation, there's inevitably, oh, I feel a ghost. No, you don't feel a ghost, dude.
Joe farted.
I
Not
have
this show. That
I have a picture of an orb. No, that's dust, dude. Right? Your job as a paranormal investigator is not to find ghosts. It's to find things you can't explain. And if you're left with no other option that it couldn't possibly be X, X, or Y, then it's a paranormal event. Am I going to say it's ghosts? No. I'm going to say it's something I can't explain. And those are the things that fascinate. Going on a paranormal investigation is not what you see on TV. It's what you're seeing is 43 minutes of like an 8-hour investigation.
mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of sitting around in the dark waiting for something to happen because you're an adult. And why not? Why ain't I in my 40s running around in the woods looking to chase ghosts?
What else do I want to do, man? Let's go.
So it's a lot of waiting. It's a lot of sitting around. It's a lot of nothing really. But then when you get that one experience or that one thing that you can't fuck with, you're like, wow, what the fuck was that? It's that feeling that just gets you on. When I met Lou Gentili for the first time, I told him the Ouija board story because I asked him straight up, do you think I'm cursed? And he's like, no, no, no. Yeah. 20 years later. It's just, I never intended to be a parent. I always was fascinated by it. I never intended to do it. But then once Lou offered to teach me, I couldn't say no, because it was something, he was one of the best at what he did. And he primarily taught me not just how to use the various instruments, but also to tune my body into an instrument and be able to pick up shit with my senses and open my senses a little bit wider than they normally are. So I'll definitely take you on one if you want.
Yeah, I'm there. It's just let me know when and where.
I ain't gonna lie, it's a lot of sitting around in the dark.
That's all right. I just love all that shit. So that's
one of my Matt Balea of Matt Balea Designs, formerly To Die For, on his first investigation, as he came down to the Jay and Silent Bob book signing. He drove all the way from Virginia to go to that. So that shit is humbling. But I love that kid. He and Chris Butler, they're two of the people I'm lucky enough to say that I'm being helpful or trying. I don't know if I'm their mentor, but when anybody comes to me with a question, I'll always answer. But I've been lucky enough to surround myself with a lot of good people. When you walk through fire for fucking 85 times for 30 years, bro, you learn shit,
Sure.
And the problem with getting older, especially when you get into your 50s or whatever, is you end up accruing all this information and you can't even give it away sometimes, because nobody wants to hear it. Everybody's like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Do you really,
Everybody knows now.
Oh, the best, I don't know if I put this in my book. I can't remember. But I told you I suck in math, right? So I did that True Hollywood Story, Cursed or Coincidence, about cursed movies. It's on YouTube. And
Okay.
But I did that, and my third grade teacher fucking messaged me on Facebook, right? And she's like, Steve Barton, did I just see you on TV?
Is that little Stevie?
And I go, I am so glad you contacted me. She's like, why? I go, remember during math when you used to tell me I had to learn this bullshit? I would never be able to walk around with a fucking calculator in my pocket. Let me introduce you to my smartphone, bitch. Oh, I was so happy to do that. And
Mic drop.
seriously, dude. So I mean, thank God for that. I'd be really fucked. But yeah, man, it's been crazy. I mean, I know the part you're talking about in the book where it comes full circle.
Yeah,
I
yeah, with
think
that phone call that you got, right? With the whole that's just
you
that
know
was wild.
a lot of people. The main question I get from people about the book is is there going to be an audiobook version? And I'm like, well, yes, there is. And they're like, you're reading it, right? No, I am not. And they always look at me like I'm fucking Seven Shades of Plaid. And they're like, well, why not? It's your life story. Why aren't you reading it? And I think the short answer is in order for me to really give the impact of some of those stories that I wrote in there, the more personal ones, 9/11, etc., I had to really put myself back in that place and open up doors that I never wanted to open again. And that's why those particular parts of the book, which some people have told me are the most well written, which is a huge compliment because I never considered myself a good enough writer to add the gravity and the impact to those stories. But being that I opened that door, I don't want to go there again. You know,
Yeah,
that
Okay.
so I just want to. I wrote the thing, I lived it. Fucking someone else read it. I got to do
yeah,
everything, right? You know, so it's. I'm glad that I did it for the book. And this guy, his name is Mark Redfield. He's a incredible actor. He was last seen in Netflix's House of Usher,
Okay.
and I sent him the book to get a quote. You know, and he does audiobooks too. And I didn't expect him to want to read it, but he's like, you know, Steve, this is an extraordinary book. I don't even know what to say. And just this ramble list of fucking compliments that I still don't even know how to really deal with. But he said to me, I want to do this as an audio book, but I don't want to just read it. I want to perform it. You know, because the book is told in the first person, you
Hmm.
know? So the way that I'm speaking to you right now is exactly the way the book is written.
yeah.
You know, there's none of that overly descriptive, blah, 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 blah. There's nothing flowery. It's just me going, okay, this is what happened. But Mark wants to do it with music and themes and fucking. So, I mean, what a fucking honor. Of course you could do it, man. Right. So I can't wait for the audiobook to come out just so I think people are going to be really impressed with it.
Yeah, you mentioned 9/11, and if I could, if Danny C, or you met him at the con, he couldn't make it tonight, but he does say hello. He wishes he could be here, and if he was here, he'd probably yell at me because I want to share a story as well, because I think one that's relatable as well with you. Um, I talk about this, and Joe probably knows this. I've been in healthcare for 32 years now, and
Thank you.
my
Thank
entire
you. You're a fucking
absolutely.
hero.
Thank you. And my entire career, Steve, has been by accident. I walked through the wrong door. When I was I was living with my brothers, we were struggling. Dinner for me was sometimes potatoes, whole potatoes out of a can. And my aunts would buy us groceries. It was tough times. Three of us, one car, before the internet, and I had to get a job. And it was just so happens there was a job down the street that I could walk to, and there was two doors. 23A Poplar Street, 23B Poplar Street, right? So I go in there. It was supposed to be like a nuts and bolts warehouse that I was going to fill out an application. I just needed to work. I needed to put food on the table. And I go in there, fill out an application, come home, I'm eating dinner, and I'm telling my brothers, I'm like, I didn't see any nuts, bowls, things like that. So I call back up. She goes, no, Mr. You went to National Patient Care. That's a healthcare company. We're next door. So I went next door and I filled out the application and everything. The following day, National Patient Care called me, and it was just a medical company, beds, low air, low mattress, and I've never looked back.
Incredible.
And 30 some odd years later, so I always say I'm blessed with everything that I have.
Absolutely.
And I bring up 9/11 too, because during that time, I remember when that happened, we loaded up our trucks and I got a police escort probably 40 minutes after the towers collapsed. I got a police escort over to GW. It was the creepiest fucking thing ever because there was not a single car. on the highway. It was just dead. It was just us and the South Hackensack police taking us across the GW. And when we got down there, I had to put a mask on because you couldn't even see it. It was a cloud of dust, everything. And Steve, when I tell you some of the things that I saw, some of the images that I saw will forever be burned in my memory. And we had ventilators and everything because it was a rental company and there was nothing to give. We would go to the hospitals and seeing if they needed equipment and no one needed it because there was no survivors.
Right.
And it was just a horrifying moment that I'll never forget. And I relate to with you being in the city, right, walking over the bridge and everything and trying to get out. And kind of as I was reading that, it took me right back to that horrible day.
I mean, that's really interesting. As somebody who was there and went through it,
Yeah.
I haven't had the opportunity to ask anyone this, but how did I do relating that day?
I thought you did amazing. I thought you spoke from the heart, and I thought you painted the exact picture of what everybody felt and was dealing with. I mean, at first you think, no, plane hit the tower. Oh my God, it's horrible.
I know.
It's an accident. Oh my God, what a tragedy, right? And then seeing the other plane coming, and it's like, holy shit, we're under attack.
Yeah.
Like, and the people that were above where the planes hit, the hopelessness that they probably felt that there was nothing they can do and the decisions that they made. It's like, it's giving me goosebumps now to even talk about it, but it was just like, so when I read that part, I really related to it. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, I really, you have no idea how much I appreciate those words because that was one of the points I was talking about where I didn't know if I had the skill to bring the actual impact and gravity of those stories to life. I mean, I had read quite a few takes on 9/11, but I never really read anyone who was there, or was there like that fucking plane went over my head, you know?
Wow.
And I hadn't read anything from somebody who was right fucking there. I mean, of course, there's news reports and this and that, and yeah, they're very informative.
Yeah, you get the expert analysis, but not the personal experience.
It was so fucking terrifying,
Yeah.
man. I mean, it is one of those things where, this is something that
You lost a dear friend, right? You lost a dear friend there. I think his name was Dave. Was it Dave?
I lost my best friend,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So I'm sorry for that. My condolences.
that was hard. It broke me, man. I couldn't talk about 9/11 for probably about 10 years. I was diagnosed with PTSD, uh, bad anxiety. I still have it. There are moments sometimes when I hear a plane, I'll just grab my wife's hand because I feel it's starting to come back. And I don't really go into government buildings anymore because I'm all freaked out by it. But it's great. It gets me out of jury duty. But see, this is the book, dude.
That's
It's like
that's
I'll be talking about all this serious shit, and then there's a zinger,
yeah.
and you get to the point you don't know if it's appropriate to laugh, but it's always appropriate to
Oh,
laugh.
absolutely. You got to bring it back. You got to bring it back some.
Always appropriate to laugh because laughter is very much my defense mechanism. When I don't know what else to do, all I can look at is the absurdity of a situation and try to find the humor in it. And that's the whole book. I mean, the book is called A Comedy of Tragedies just because that's what my life was.
Mhm.
You look at all this fucked up shit that I endured, and I endured it all with a fucking smile on my face. Not because I'm a masochist or anything or a sadist or anything like that, just because if you don't laugh at it, man, if I didn't laugh or try to find,
It's going to consume you.
I would just cry and be
Yeah.
miserable. It is not lost on me, and I mean this with every ounce of conviction that I shouldn't be here right now. I should be dead. I should be a drug addict. I should be an alcoholic. I should be in jail. And I easily could have gone down any of those roads. And a lot of people totally would have, but I'm just a motherfucker. I'm a cockroach. I've been battered so many times that I'm like, fuck it. What else you got? You know what I mean? And that's the thing about square one, man. When you're knocked on your ass and you have nowhere to go and you're just sitting there and you're looking around and the fucking walls are 19,000 feet high, all you could do is get up and brush off and go, how do I get out of this one? And that's what my whole life has been.
Yeah.
It's a new blank canvas to start over.
The bad times are the best times, and that may sound fucking stupid, but they really are, because it's only when you have nothing, when you've been broken down to your fucking barest essential, being happy is easy. Things are going great, you're laughing, you're smiling, you're not thinking about it.
Hmm.
When you're on your ass and you're fucked up, that's when you get to make the most exciting choices of your life, because it's then that you're going to make decisions that are going to shape your character and dictate who you become. So I've learned to really embrace the bad times and not be afraid of them anymore. There was a time I was always afraid, man, but I buried my last fuck many years ago, you know, and I'm
That's where I got
glad,
to get to.
I'm glad that the book is having that kind of impact on people, where my story is reaching the people who I desperately wanted to get to, because I don't like seeing people down, man. I don't like people who are at the end of their rope and they feel like they're lost. I've been there. I know that fucking feeling, and it's terrible. So to be able to put something out there and, like Danielle said, have them feel not so alone, it's been a gift for me, you know?
Amazing. Absolutely.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, there's a few things I wanted to mention about the book, but as we were going, we were kind of going linear. I didn't want to jump all around, but a lot of things stuck with me throughout your book, like the quote you brought up, and I don't remember it fully, so I'm not going to butcher it, when it pertained to your father. And it mentioned kind of how, like, a way to, that he basically inspired you how not to be, and that really stuck with me, because of the relationship I have with my father as well. The date July 19th is actually big in my life. It's when my grandfather passed away, and he died when I was a kid. And it was very close because I talked to him every Sunday. He's what kind of got me into baseball, and his love for, like, the Yankees, because he grew up in the Bronx, and Derek Jeter was my favorite player my whole life growing up. And the Ouija board, I told these guys the story about what I had. I mentioned it in our very first episode, and then when we did an episode about paranormal, I'll never touch one of those again because of the stuff that happened after we did the Ouija board. And I like how you put the setting of when, people first do it and everyone's looking at each other like thinking they're moving it. But once the shit starts getting going, though, yeah, it's definitely a unique experience that I'm cool if I never do again.
Yeah, man, I'm a firm believer. Listen, I think that if you assume that this right here is all that there is, it's a very short-sighted sentiment. I mean, if that's what it ends up being, then hey, that's what it ends up being. But I like to think that somewhere out there, there has to be some fucking body or some fucking entity that's smarter than we are, you know? Because if there's not, then holy shit, this world's just gonna burn. But
Oh, too soon.
oh god, I didn't even think of that. So many friends in LA,
Yeah,
and
it's horrible what's happening out there.
it's heartbreaking.
Prayers to all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in touch with them pretty much every day.
You lived in LA for a period of time, right?
That was one of the good things when Dread Central started to take off and actually be a company. It made sense for me to live in California because I was closer to the industry. And now the industry is kind of migrated everywhere.
Yeah.
I spent like 18 years out there, and I realized I could pretty much do what I do anywhere. And now I'm back on the East Coast and I have pizza, like real pizza. And I missed that. Like when I had my first slice of East Coast pizza in like 20 years, I ate
Whew.
like a porn star, dude.
Yeah.
Frost, I was like putting that shit in my mouth. I was I got up and I hugged the server. I didn't give a fuck, bro.
Caressing the crust.
That's what too much pineapple will do to you.
Shit.
Bro, every slice of pizza, I'd say 90% of this, and I'm Italian from New York, but I'd say 90% of the slices of pizza you get in California would be flaccid. It's like you pick it up, you can't fold it.
I'm not even touching this one.
It's just horrible, dude. It's fucking horrible. But god damn, did it have good Mexican food out there. I ain't gonna fuck around. So it was like a trade-off. Pizza, Mexican food, and I love both. So.
So speaking about flaccid, When we first got,
Segue.
when we
Wow,
first got
Where are we going here?
whoa, Joe's got a
Joe.
revelation tonight too.
that was the perfect segue to finally bring this up because obviously when we met you at New Jersey HorrorCon in person for the first time, and our intro to you was to draw a dick on your face before we start talking to you.
I knew I loved this man.
So I need to know if that was the first time you had ever done that, or what made you think, let's just have people draw a dick on my face before we can start talking.
You know, I mean, when you sign at a show, one of the things you do is you take your Sharpie and you test it on something. So I obviously just drew a dick on my own face because it's my face. Why not draw a dick on it?
Your body, your choice.
Right. Exactly. So then I had my wife draw a dick on my face. And I'm laughing. And then I said, you know what would be cool? If everybody who came to my table, celebrities included, drew a dick on my face. And then on Sunday, I'll just give it away to somebody. So it started like, I want to say maybe a year ago now. I don't know. But it's called Dick Pic Sunday. You know, I have celebrities, fans, anyone who comes to my table. I ask them, hey man, want to draw a cock on my face? And you'd be surprised how warm that makes the engagement. It's like all of a sudden everybody's laughing. It's like it's such a strange icebreaker, you know?
It is. It's the ultimate fucking icebreaker.
So I'm like, me, I don't have a fucking ego. I don't give a shit. Draw dicks all over my fucking face, right? So yeah, man, it turned into a thing, and now it's like a thing when people are. I have literally people, yo, can I get this weekend's dick pic? You know, it's funny when they say that to me, and the person standing next to them doesn't know what it's about. I'm just sitting there like, well, yes, you can.
I think I honored you with the Serbian film.
Oh God, dude! When people get descriptive, like I pay a lot of attention to the balls. You give me a good set of balls from the vein, or sometimes it has the hook. It's nice, and I appreciate the details.
Nice, love it.
But that's something that only I would do because I'm deranged and don't care. I'm actually, I just had a colonoscopy.
Oh, I had my first a couple of years ago.
It's like I did one of those Cologuard tests, right? And here's a story for the second book.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, this is the most embarrassing fucking thing I've ever done, right? So I get the kit in the mail and I do it, and now I got to bring this thing back to the fucking UPS store, right? So I'm standing in line with a clearly marked Cologuard fucking.
You didn't put it in a napkin, did you?
Oh no, but I know that everyone around me knows that I'm just sitting there with shit in my box, right? I go to the counter and the girl looks at me. She goes, "Do you want a receipt?" Nah, I don't want a fucking receipt, lady. Like, I can make as much of this as I want at any time. So I mail it, and 2 weeks later, they're like, "We're still waiting," and I'm like, "What the fuck?" So I call there, and they never got it. So now I have to do it again because, of course, I have to do it again, right? Because it wasn't embarrassing enough the first time. Now I got to do it again, and I do it again, and then of course, you know, I get back a positive of something, and I'm like, you know what? It's actually poetic that if there's one thing in this world that's going to take me out, it's going to be my own ass. I was like, this is just fucking, this is the way it should be, right? And I go for a fucking colonoscopy, and thank God I'm clear. There's nothing. It was nothing. Blah blah blah. Blah. But then the doctor goes, okay, we're going to leave some pictures for you on the table, and I'm like, oh, pictures, you say? So now I'm kind of toying with the idea.
Is it your best nurse that you're leaving the pictures of?
I'm kind of toying with the idea of selling a colonoscopy 8x10 at my table.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes.
Just because I'm completely back out of my own fucking mind. And I took the best picture of the inside of my shit, right? And I had one of my friends, I'm not going to say who in case they're embarrassed, I had them like Photoshop my head like at the very back of it. Is this video or audio?
Yes.
This is both.
All right, then I'm not going to show you the picture in case I do this. or maybe I'll do it off the air, right?
There we go.
That's our Patreon upload. As soon as we get a Patreon.
You gotta have a Patreon, upload.
Dude, I swear to God, I'm like right on the edge of actually pulling the trigger just because
That's so awesome.
Stupid. I'll tell you something that nobody knows. I'll break it here. So when I first when I sent my book to Encyclopocalypse, right? They were like, "Can we call?" Before they knew what it was, they were like, "Can we call it Uncle Creepy Presents a Comedy of Tragedies?" I'm like, "No, that sounds like a coloring book." Fast forward a few months, I'm working with Chris Butler Designs to do a coloring book of a comedy of tragedies, and it's going to be the most absurd thing. Like I'm going to have like a my grandmother's pubic hair maze. You
Oh,
know, it's and
oh my
all
gosh.
profanity word search. It's just going to be amazing. It,
Oh shit. Next little day exclusive.
The furry angry raccoon, I think it was.
That's gonna be amazing. Oh my god.
Oh my
Oh,
god, that is classic. That is absolutely
I
classic.
just don't care.
I love it.
It's like if something's absurd, I embrace it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there ain't going to be pictures of me cradling my mom's corpse, like, oh, color this, right? But, if the absurd fucking imagery that could be conjured from like me fighting that giant ass spider,
Oh,
there's
jeez.
so many things in the book that could be brought to life and be funny in coloring book fashion.
I want to color that evil possum. I want that evil possum.
What the fuck did that thing want, dude? That thing wanted something, dude. It was like an affront. Like, why is this thing haunting me?
I have a visitor. I know you love dogs, so
I got a French bulldog now.
yeah, she's a Boston Terrier.
Gorgeous.
This is Annabelle, and she is evil. Nah,
Yo,
she's great.
does she fart like a motherfucker?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh
No,
my,
the silent but deadly ones.
oh
They're
my.
like
My dog farts. It smells like burnt chalk. I don't even know how to. Is this? What is this smell? It doesn't even make sense. Ugh.
Annabelle's like, yeah, I'm gonna be in a YouTube video. I love it.
all right, this is nowhere near on par with the 9/11 thing, but the whole colonoscopy thing reminded me of okay, I've had scarier moments in my life, but literally the scariest second of my life was when I went for a colonoscopy. And that was the first time I was put under for anything in my life. I haven't even broken a fucking bone. I've had 6 stitches. So I've been very lucky with things like that. So I go in, like, all right, countdown from 10, 10, not coming to. The nurse is like, everything went well. The doctor will be in a few minutes. So, in that haze, and then the doctor comes walking in and says, everything checks out. Everything's perfectly fine. Verbatim. While we were in there, and I'm like, I was knocked out for the first time in my life. And he actually said, while we were in there, I'm like, what the fuck did they do? And I'm like, oh, we checked your prostate and that checks out too. But it was like for
While we
that,
were in
literally
there.
that 1 second pause, I'm like, that's not like, where's your bedside manner? That's not
While
how
we
you
were in
say
there,
that.
we passed go and you collected $200 fucking dollars.
I had a similar experience when I was first scheduling it. Right, I'm on the phone. This is how you know I'm old. When I was first scheduling it,
Oh,
like I'm
yeah.
holding a fucking phone in my hand.
So I'm talking to the
I
guy.
love it.
Right. So it was like mid-December, and she's like, "Do you want to try to slide it in before Christmas?" I'm like, "Lady, never use that fucking terminology again. I don't want to slide anything in there. Okay,
First of all, if I could slide it in, I wouldn't be calling you for an appointment.
seriously." But you know what's funny? So when I was waking up, right, they take me. It's so weird because like, what the fuck just happened? And I hate being put out. I really do. It's not on my agenda. So they're wheeling me back into recovery, and the nurse brings me. She was also my anesthesiologist, and she brings me like Lorna Doones and fucking apple juice, right? Because I'm fucking starving at this
Oh
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's
The
like,
For me,
pre-work
that
was
the worst
horrible.
part. Yeah.
The pre-work was horrible.
So-
I lived on the fucking toilet.
oh my god, dude. So she's walking away. She goes, "Enjoy your bagel." I went, what? How do you know I'm having a bagel? She said the last thing you said before you went to sleep was, "I want a bagel." I have no recollection of that at all, but it tracks.
That's the only reason why, like the whole Colo Guard, I'm concerned because they say false positives a lot, and the last thing I want to do is actually get like a positive. Like, oh fuck, I'd be running to get another colonoscopy the next day. That would freak me out. So
I was freaking out for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like because in my you don't get over that. It's not like, oh, I got a positive, terrific. You're just like, fuck.
yeah, yeah, that was my fear. Why because I thought about doing that, and I was like, no, but yeah, eating right after is fantastic. I think my wife took me to Jersey Mike's, had the biggest fucking sandwich imagine because you don't eat anything for like a day and a half, 2 days.
Dude, it was brutal. It's like you can't eat. They make you drink this fucking gallon of some magnesium citrate or fucking. Then you got to drink an entire fucking case of like Miralax and Gatorade, and you can't eat anything. So
Oh,
my wife, I couldn't eat anything but Jello, but you can't have anything but anything that's red or purple. Or
yeah, yeah,
it's the fucking blue raspberry Jello, which is the most hideous color blue you've ever fucking
yeah,
seen. Like you could
yeah.
paint a wall with this shit, right? And fucking, I got
And
it.
broth,
Oh,
like bone broth soup. I was drinking.
just drinking hot water.
Yeah, basically,
You know
basically.
what? Next time I'm going to your all places because they told me after, I think it was after 11 o'clock or midnight, absolutely nothing. No water, no nothing. Now, the taste of the prep was one thing. I didn't mind being on the bowl the whole time, but the hangry feeling, like that last hour before I went under, luckily there was a diner right next door to the place. But I was so miserable because it was like, I'll just settle for a sip of water at this point. And they told me absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
You know what I'm thinking right now? I'm thinking that you may want to just add this whole colonoscopy part as a Patreon exclusive because you're totally losing the younger demographic here.
yeah, right. Yeah, but listen,
These fucking kids.
they
they
gotta
don't-
educate themselves because that shit is coming.
And I think the most offensive part of the whole experience was that appointment was my 35th birthday present from my now ex-wife and my mother.
Oh,
They colluded to make the phone call to make me an appointment for my 35th birthday. That's what I got from them. They both had it shoved up my ass.
ooh, I'd be so mad. Ooh.
That's wild.
And sorry, but the bitch didn't even buy me lunch afterwards.
Bro, I got out of that thing. I got a bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel. I was ready to stop at McDonald's immediately after. I didn't give a fuck. I
Yeah.
was starving.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I'm laying in bed. I fell asleep, right? I made it through the whole day. I'm like, score. I wake up, I go get it done, I'm done. And I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden, like I'm asleep for an hour, and my stepdaughter starts making grilled cheese. And I'm like, woke me right up, bro. I was
Like Pepe Le Pew, just
yeah, dude, totally. 100%. Like a motherfucker.
Hey, so I want to change gears from colonoscopies to Amityville horror, if I may.
boo.
I know. Sorry, all you youngins out there. So, and I love the Amityville horror. I love the whole, the actual story, right, with the DeFeos and all that.
Dude, I fucking got into that building, dude.
Oh,
I posed as a prospective buyer because I'm an asshole. It was the only way I was getting in.
And that's why we wanted you on here.
I love it. I stopped some old lady in the street and I said, could you please take my picture in front of the house here? She's like, I can't tell you how many, she was fantastic. She's like, I can't tell you how many people stop me because she walks around the town. I said, yeah, I'm sure everybody's always trying to take a picture in front of it. But
Dude, I have a piece of the windows, the original windows.
really?
Yeah, hang on.
What, from
Oh,
when they
wow.
changed it out, I guess.
Yeah.
A piece of the Amityville window. I mean, fuck. Oh, wow. Holy shit. Look at that.
Fucking piece of the windows, the original windows.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay.
Because of course I want a relic from a house where several people got fucking horribly slaughtered and shit. Why not?
Hey,
What's
maybe
wrong?
I can grab a piece of window from outside, sell that shit for $25.
Yes. Anything to make a buck nowadays. Man.
Yeah.
I still can't for the life of me understand how a family is shot in their bed by a rifle.
Nobody
They're
hears.
all on their stomach. No one gets up. No one moves. There's not a drug in their system. I like if if someone's shooting someone in a room, when you hear that, you're up. You're getting up. You're trying to hide. You're doing something. It can't be that everybody in their room was that. Just like I can't. Like I'm like, just like I don't know.
That is
It's
that
I
is the.
can't fathom that.
You remember when I was talking earlier about when you get that one thing that you just can't explain?
Yeah,
To me, that is the one thing about the Amityville horror. You know, it doesn't make nothing. That rifle is loud,
exactly.
right? And I can't, for the life of me, live or rationalize how nobody moved, nobody
Yeah,
hurt. You know, the only thing that makes sense is if there was more than one killer and they did it like at the same time. But even then, you would have to like synchronize shooting. It's stupid. That won't happen. You know, it's the weirdest thing. Um, as someone who grew up in New York with a fascination with the paranormal, of course, Amityville was huge to me. You know,
sure, sure.
and because honestly, it's probably the most famous haunted house in the entire world.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I had the good fortune of working with a guy named Dan Farrens on both. His name was Jason on Never Sleep Again, and then later on, he knew because we had so many conversations about Amityville because Dan was a close friend of George Lutz. You know,
Okay.
Dan is the only guy I know that is as much of a fucking Amityville lunatic as I am. You know, and so when he made the Amityville murders, I'm like, I'm all in, dude. What you need, right? So I got to be in that movie. And actually, I really like it. It's a good movie. If it sucked, I'd say something because all 90% of those Amityville movies are terrible. But I do like the remake. I like the original. I like The Possession is my favorite, and
Me
I
too.
and
Thank
I
you.
think that Amityville Murders is a really really good movie. Um, so of course I'm in New York, and the first time, dude, I was sitting there with my friends on the stoop and in a schoolyard. We're hanging out, we're getting high, getting drunk, and we're like, "Yo, let's go to fucking Amityville, man!" Right? So we drive fucking 2 hours all the way to fucking Secaucus or whatever the fuck it is, right? And we get off the exit that's at Amityville and we're like high fiving, and it dawned on us there's no fucking sign that said haunted house this way. So we ended up going all the way back home, dejected, loser, drunk, high people, right? Except for the driver who was not drunk. Um, and that pissed me off. And then I've always kept an eye on the goings on of Amityville, you know, and one time it went up for sale and I posed as a prospective buyer to get into it because that was the only way I was ever going to get into it. At this point, I was kind of well versed and well trained in um, what I do in terms of paranormal investigation. And I got to tell you, I didn't feel a single thing in that house, nothing. And that's not to say that nothing is there. It's to say that when I was there at that particular time, nothing was happening in that house. And I left very disappointed, not like I expected someone to say, "Hey, look, I'm in the well in the floor," you know, like a little pop-up guy. But no.
Get out your selfie stick. Hey, this is Opal Creepy coming to you live from.
Oh my God, that fucking the realtor was up my ass every step of the way. I could not get away with anything. So, but it was great to be in Erie to actually be in that house. And what Dan did with the Amityville murders is being that him and George were so close, Dan ended up with all George's files. So all the like the floor plan, the original crime scene photos, all of this, I got to sift through. This was like fucking for me, it was like this was a party, you know what I mean? Even though it's based on this really horrible tragedy that never should have happened. And it's disgusting what Butch DeFeo did. And but Dan took painstaking measures to make sure that the inside of that house for that movie looked as much like 112 Ocean Avenue as possible, right down to having like a particular piece of linoleum put down for the kitchen scenes. You know, I mean, he really like walking on that set and being so familiar with the story and the house and the history. I was, holy shit, this is fucking amazing, you know? And I think if you want my honest opinion on the house, I think that there are two types of hauntings. There's residual, which is like leaving a fingerprint, like everything has energy. So some energy can be left behind, especially when it's such a traumatic occurrence happens. And there's intelligent hauntings, which is you're able to communicate with whatever is there if there's something there. So I think it was probably a residual haunting. I don't think that it was as I'm sure it was exacerbated by Jay Anson in terms of what actually happened. You know, I'm sure that George took a couple of liberties here and there, but I will tell you this that George and Kathy, yes, they made money, but they were far from wealthy. They didn't make a killing off of this story. Um, it's just like everything else, man. It's like you're dealt the hand that you have. I think what they went through was probably a really bad um, residual haunting, but without being able to really be on the ground there and not feeling anything when I was there. Um, who knows? You know, I think they dealt with a really bad haunting that ended up getting blown up into this fucking circus that it's
Yeah.
turned. You know? I
Yeah.
can tell you though that Lou, who trained me, was also a friend of George, or Lee, as his friends called him. And George told me, I mean, Lou told me the same thing. You know, he never was rich from it. You know, he didn't make all this money. He had his book deal. He had a piece of like the original movie, and then everything like went to courts and this and that, and all those things have fees. So who knows?
Yeah.
I do think it's a good thing that Ronnie DeFeo spent the entirety of his life in jail. I think that you reap what you sow, and he was a horrible person. And
You think he acted alone?
hard to say, man. You know that's the anomaly. That is,
Yeah.
do I think that he acted alone? If I was a betting man, I would say his sister helped.
That's what. Yeah. That's what I kind of thought.
I would say that Don DeFeo, who's being that they had such a contentious relationship with their parents, um, there's a very strong possibility that Don helped and you know done. And it you know it fucking it's such a sad it's horrible that we as a society have to look back at these terrible incidents and dissect them, you know, and have fun kind of doing it. But I think that's just human nature, man. I think people since the beginning of time, which is what's cool about horror, right? You know, horror,
That morbid fascination.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
horror stories have been around since fucking cavemen were drawing pictures on walls, right? They're monsters. There's this, there's that. So I think everyone has this strange fascination with death because we don't know what's after it. Is it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know? And I think that because of that, we can't help it. Just dive into it when we get a chance.
Mhm.
People like us who are more in tune with like the darker side of things, but that doesn't mean we're weirdos. We like what we like.
Sure.
It's just it's so fucking weird. Like I feel bad sometimes, like when I'm investigating something. Like, am I really? I try to only do anything for the right reasons. You know, like I didn't go into Amityville looking for demons. You know, I went in there just to see if I could get a feel for the building, just out of my own,
Mhm.
not professional then curiosity, but my own curiosity because I wanted to know. You know, the sad truth is you could take one block and on one corner you have a terrible accident. And on the other corner, you have a woman giving birth, probably the most beautiful thing in the world, a new life coming into the world. And I think that the majority of the people are more apt to go spectate the car accident. And it's just, it's human nature.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of that fascination with what is next, if anything. You know, I think when I go and do an investigation to see if I could find something, maybe there's a good part of me that's doing it to reassure myself that this isn't the end, that there is something else out there, because I want there to be for people like Dave. You know, I want there to be for the people who I've lost, who I really cared about. My mom, not so much my dad, he can go fuck himself. But, you know, it's like I want them to be able to go on somehow. And,
Mhm.
and I think that's what fascinates me.
Th-
Paranormal and horror movies go hand in hand, like fucking peanut butter and jelly. So it was two of my biggest fascinations.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that you said you enjoyed part two the best.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I love the possession. It's so underrated.
dude, it is an Italian fucking weirdo possession fest.
Exactly. With incest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what was cool about Amityville Murders was Dan had brought back Burt Young and Diane Franklin, who were in the
I
possession.
gotta watch Amityville. I've never seen Amityville Murders. I gotta watch it.
And Burt Young played the grandfather, and Diane Franklin played the mother. So I mean, it's a really cool little movie. I mean, don't expect like this big budget thing, but of all the Amityville movies, it's probably in the top four, and there's probably just four good ones.
The state of horror, I find that the lower the budget, sometimes the better the movie when you think about it, right?
You have to be creative to get your
Yeah,
shit.
exactly.
And that's why my bread and butter will always be indie films.
Yeah.
I'll make fucking $200,000 movies for the rest of my life if I'm allowed to. You know, I don't care about it. I've never done anything in my life for ego or money. I've only done it for, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I like making people happy. I like turning people on to cool shit that they may not be aware of. That was always a big thrill for me, especially with Dread Central. I mean, think about it. When we were growing up, we had things like the Fangoria Weekend of Horrors and
Yeah.
shit. What the fuck does the person in Kansas have? What do the people in Middle America? What do the people in fucking Dakota have? They
Yeah.
don't have events like that. And me as always feeling like an outcast because of what I love more than anything, I wanted to make like an island of misfit toys where everybody could gather and not be judged and just celebrate what they love. And that's what Dread Central was for me. And I wanted to make a movie site which paid as much attention to the indie film as it did the studio film.
Mhm.
Dread Central was a very even keel ground for that. I made sure of that because that was the thrust of the whole site. Because everybody's like, oh, you never know where the new Romero, the new Carpenter, the new this, the new that's coming. Bullshit. I know where they're coming from. The indie scene. And you have to fucking pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
And didn't Romero pretty much go to the grave with, like, he always saw himself as an indie filmmaker?
George did not like working with Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Like, he made his movies.
Well,
I mean,
I say it all the time. Go ahead, Steve.
yeah.
No, I was just gonna say I say it all the time. I really truly hope that Hollywood takes notice of what there is an audience for these movies, these indie movies, right? That put it out there. I mean, Terrifier 3 unrated, right? These are unrated movies. I mean, when's the last time you saw an unrated movie become the number one movie in America? So it's like, I hope Hollywood and maybe they are because they gave some love to The Substance, which is a fantastic movie.
Best
But hope
movie of the year.
Oh, I loved The Substance. I thought it was. I'm a big Cronenberg fan, Steve. So anything body horror, Videodrome, Scanners, The Brood. I mean, love that shit. So
The fact that they just went full Gonzo Society at
yeah,
the Substance was fucking
yeah,
brilliant.
it was.
Because in my head, I'm like, they're never going to go there. They're never going to go there. Oh,
Yeah,
hello, old friend. That was the same thing that I got from Terrifier. The reason why I needed Terrifier out there was because when we were kids, we all hung out with our various groups. And as kids, we're all about the same age. We would talk to our friends about these forbidden fruit movies.
oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Oh, Cannibal Holocaust.
oh Faces of Death.
Faces of Death. These are the movies that you would talk about in hushed tones with your friend
Yeah,
in the fucking schoolyard or on the stoop. And no movie has given that to me, with the exception of the Hatchet franchise. I think the Hatchet franchise really
That's great.
delivered. I think it's completely underrated. But Terrifier, the first time I was watching it, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if he cut that chick right down the middle? I never gonna do that. Next thing you know, the fucking camera's between her ass cheeks. And I'm going, wow, right? And I'm like, this is exactly the type of movie that I wanted Dread Central to put out. And that's why I fought so hard for it. And if I didn't do everything that I did, and this isn't hubris and it isn't a pat on the back because I don't give a fuck, but if I didn't do everything exactly as I did, nobody would have seen that movie. Nobody would have gotten Terrifier 2, and nobody certainly would have gotten
Yeah.
Terrifier.
That's why I thank you. Appreciate that. You
And-
brought up Hatchet, Adam Green. It was a good movie by him, Digging Up the Marrow.
Oh God.
So underrated. No one really
I'm in
talks
that.
about this movie.
I'm in that.
Are you in it?
I forgot, but yeah, I'm in it.
Holy shit.
A real fan of that movie you are, JC.
I haven't seen it in fucking ages.
I'm in the very beginning when he's interviewing people about what their biggest fears are, and
Okay.
mine was seafood, lobsters, because they walk sideways. That shit ain't cool, right? Or it was some shit like that. You don't eat anything that wears its skeleton on the outside. They're fucking monsters. I actually forgot I was in that.
Oh, wow. I got to
I
check it
bought
out
my
again.
DVD to sign, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's right. I am in this." And Adam credits me, even though it's definitely him, but he credits me. Maybe I was the only one that wanted to help or would lend help, but he credits me with helping to create the whole Hatchet Army thing, and that's very kind of him to say. But those movies speak for themselves, man. They're just fun.
They
Truth be
are.
told, I like the Hatchet franchise more than the Terrifier franchise, just because I think those movies are more well-rounded and less rough around the edges. But what sells Terrifier is that it is so rough around the edges. So it's a good balance.
And listen, Hatchet has one of the most iconic kills,
Mhm.
right? I mean, with Crowley, ripping the head. I mean, that was a great scene.
I'm hoping that now that Terrifier is getting all this attention, people will look back and discover the Hatchet movies and Victor Crowley and shit like that.
Yeah.
Because those movies just flew right under the radar. And that's nonsense because they're every bit as good, you know? And I hope now that there's like this gore renaissance that people do go back and take a look at some of the stuff they may have missed. I'm
Yep.
proud. The biggest thing I am proud of when it comes to Terrifier is I don't even care if it was a movie I had nothing to do with. That movie opened up the door for theaters to take a chance on
Amen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
kicked open the door and held it open. And getting it out there and seeing movies coming out that we normally would never see in a theater as a result,
Yeah.
that is the biggest thing I'm proud of in terms of what I did with Terrifier.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't see violence like that. I mean, going back again, I grew up in the 80s, so Day of the Dead, going to see Day of the Dead, and we're going to see Reanimator, right? Which, by the way, you guys, I finally wore it. Let me
Yes.
show you.
As soon as I saw the green, I knew that's what it was.
Yeah.
Wow. Badass.
My little homage to Reanimator.
Badass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things. And again, like, yeah, being roughly the same age as well, like when you look at the 80s, like the theatrical releases to the straight to video ratio there, like some of the best shit was straight to video. It was just
Yeah.
these low budget, and the whole point of it was, all right, let's see how fucked up we can get this. And that's one of the things that grabbed me about things like Terrifier. It was going back to that just gritty, let's see how many people we could gross out or piss off, things like that. Like that's what made those they weren't always quality movies. You didn't always have the best storyline in it, but they were a lot of fun because they pushed the boundaries.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we need to see more of. Like JC was saying, like, either Hollywood needs to sit the fuck down or they need to take note of all this. Like this is what people want to see. You know, people talk about, oh, this movie went over the line. Like
Mhm.
we've all said, like horror movies are supposed to show you horrible shit. You're not supposed to walk away. It's not a
Yeah.
feel-good movie. This ain't the fucking Notebook or, Bridesmaids and all. Like, no, you go in there to walk out with most likely a negative feeling of sorts.
Yeah, dude. You know what? There was a point in late 80s horror where these movies were being released essentially bloodless. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah, the
13th
MPAA really
Friday
did
the
a
13th
number.
8, fucking there's a throat slash and there's no blood.
Hmm.
But yet Total Recall is fucking violent as hell. It was like the horror genre was specifically targeted. And that was like the worst fucking time to be a horror fan.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There was like this really weird drought between the late 80s and Wes Craven's Scream. That was
Yeah.
the drought.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Wes Craven's Scream, it kind of put the spotlight back on the horror genre where
Yeah,
it
like
belonged.
how many times did he revive the genre?
No.
Because even by the time Nightmare came out, like slashers were already starting to take a dip. Like they were a dime a dozen. People were getting fatigued by it. And then, 84 Nightmare comes out and it's just like, oh shit, it's amazing again. And luckily Friday the 13th was still going pretty strong at
I
for a
miss
couple more
those.
movies.
I want them to get their
Yeah.
shit together. I miss Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
I miss Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't think the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which was terrible.
Oh God, I can't even. Yeah, I saw it once and that's it.
I don't put any blame at the feet of Jackie Earl Haley. You know,
That seems to be the consensus.
you
He
got,
did great with what he had.
but he didn't have anything, and that's because the creative team behind that movie did nothing. Did nothing with their budget. They had a fucking budget that was the size of their craft services budget was the size of all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies put
Yeah.
together. Budget, right?
Yeah.
And I was on set for the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and Sam Bayer, who did the fucking Nirvana "Smells Like Teen Spirit" music video, was the director. And it was obvious that he just didn't give a shit. He was doing this purely to get his name into a theater as a director. It's like he had no reverence for the fucking movies, you know? And then you have, what the fuck was her face who played Nancy?
Heather Langenkamp.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I heard,
no.
yeah, she didn't give a shit either. Like it was solely a paycheck for
What's
her.
her name? The one who
I forget. I was going to bring it up, and then I'm like, I don't know her name. I don't want to sound like an idiot.
I'll take.
I don't
a
want to
look.
sound more like an
She's
idiot.
the girl with the dragon tattoo. I can't think of her name. Fuck. Anyway, she didn't want to be there. You know what I mean? And it was obvious she didn't want to be there.
Rooney Mara.
Rooney Mara, right?
Yeah.
She just wanted no part of that fucking movie, and you could tell. So you have a director who don't give a shit. You have the most convoluted fucking script in the world. You have a star who don't care. You know what's going to happen? The movie suffers. It did great at the box office, and it proved that the franchise does have muscle. But let's face it, dude. I mean, Robert Englund ain't going to be able to play Freddy forever. Doug Bradley ain't going to be able to play Pinhead forever. So be open to giving new actors a fair shake. But God damn it, was that a misfire? That was the worst misfire remake out of all of them, in my opinion. It was just fucking dull, you know? Like the only interesting thing was the micronaps thing.
That was a cool.
That was the only interesting thing. They didn't even do it.
With Joe, what was the guy's name again that was talking about the micro? Kyle
Skinamarink. You going to Skinamarink?
Gowner. We're obsessed with
Yeah.
we're obsessed with the whole idea that we just learned that it's Kyle Gallner.
Down.
Oh yeah.
But,
Kyle Gallner makes any movie better just because he's in it.
yeah.
He does. Look at Smile. He's awesome in that. Smile 2, he's in it for a minute, but it's awesome.
I hear he was kind of like the best part of it.
I'm a huge. I'm the resident found footage guy. I love found footage horror. That's why Blair Witch Project for me will always have a place in my heart because I think that movie just was the
Brought it into
granddaddy
the
of found.
mainstream.
Even though you can go back and you can say Cannibal Holocaust, you could even say Faces of Death, right? Was the found started the found for me. It's always Blair Witch. So anything found footage,
I'm a huge fan of found footage movies. I think that there are rules to found footage movies that sometimes filmmakers forget.
Yeah.
Like if you want to take me out of a found footage movie is only effective when you believe what you're seeing, even though you know it's fake. Right? So being that I'm willing to put in that suspension of disbelief that what I'm seeing is actually happening, and that's why it's documentary style and cool. If you put a camera battery indicator on the screen, I'm out. I'm out. It would never record that. Nobody would ever see that. You know what I mean? So once that is, to me, that is the cardinal rule. But I'm also the cat that fucking discovered Paranormal Activity before anyone had any idea what that movie even was. I was singing that movie's praises for 2 years before Paramount.
Yeah, another great movie. Oren Peli did an amazing job with that.
The reason I was able to do that because Oren Peli lived down the fucking street from me.
Oh shit.
Okay. And he filmed that in his home, right? That was
I've seen every conceivable cut of Paranormal Activity. I watched the movie in the house.
Oh, that's got to be great, man.
It's amazing. But, matter of fact, when they did the marked ones, remember the scene where the lead guy runs into Katie in the garage?
Yes.
I was standing on the opposite side of the garage door during that film.
Very cool.
Because they went back to the original house.
Yeah, I didn't make it that far in
That
the
was a good
series.
one. The marked ones were that was a good one.
Paranormal Activity 3, and the marked ones are the only ones worth watching.
Yeah,
So
I
every
would agree.
other, only the odd ones.
Yeah, I like part 3 because they went back when they were kids, right? So I enjoyed that one.
Conceivably speaking, you could watch Paranormal Activity 3, Paranormal Activity, and Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, as a trilogy.
Yep.
And,
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
and have a great matter of fact, they actually no, they stopped with 3. There was a marathon cut of Paranormal Activity 1, 2, and 3 that it was edited in chronological order. It was digital only. And if they were to do that with fucking the marked ones now, I'd be all over that shit.
Yeah. You see this clown behind me from Hell House?
Hell House, man, yeah.
Hell House. Yeah. Again,
House.
another good franchise. Stephen Cognetti did an amazing job with that.
Last fucking entry in that franchise is solid as fuck.
Yeah, Origins. Yeah, yeah,
Good stuff, man. You know
yeah.
what else was good? Deadstream. Did you see Deadstream?
Deadstream. Yeah, yeah.
That's the one with the insufferable. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, it was. I liked it, but there were moments where it's like I just want him to die now. Like he played that
I
annoying
had fun with it though.
YouTuber. Yeah, but
Poster's great. Poster's great.
mhm.
Horror in the High Desert. Have you
Horror
seen
in the High Desert is surprisingly
Right, surprisingly good. The first one was creepy as hell. That ending was like, holy shit.
The second one was a little meh. I haven't watched the third one yet.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
hoping the third
Same,
one's
same,
better.
same. You know what was good, Steve? Butterfly Kisses.
Oh yeah, that's the dude who was fucking trying to prove the existence of ghosts.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. You know,
That
it was
was-
good too, but it wasn't true found footage. It was more documentary style. It was Lake Mungo. Have you seen-
Oh, fucking A. Fuck. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. You can
Greatest
exit
movie
stage
of all
left.
time.
Lake Mungo is fucking good.
There's nowhere else to take this episode.
Yeah, yeah. Dave and I are huge Lake Mungo fans, and we always battle Joe and Danny C, who was, that movie is just full of dread.
Dude, that ending, my
That
fucking
ending.
jaw was on the floor.
Yeah.
You want to see the fucking best documentary with the most ludicrous fucking ending in the world that actually happened? Have you seen something called The Last Word?
No.
Okay.
I got the last broadcast stuck in my head.
The last word.
The Last Word.
Okay.
I find it.
Okay.
Find it and watch it. It's this one. There's a couple of movies called The Last Word. This is what it looks like.
Okay.
You watch it. By the time I got to the end of that movie, I thought I was going to have to call a therapist.
So
Holy shit.
is it an actual documentary,
Oh, yes.
or is it a mockumentary based on a true story?
1000% true.
Okay.
With the most absurd ending that actually happened. If this movie doesn't make you believe at least somewhat in the paranormal, I don't know what will.
The
'Cause
last
it's not
word.
a
Yeah.
paranormal movie at all.
Oh, it's streaming on Tubi.
Dude, make sure it's this one.
So the last word synopsis in 1968, when a 76-year-old nun is raped and murdered, a teen from the wrong side of the tracks is tried for the murder and sentenced to death. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
But
Wait, go ahead, keep talking. Keep talking.
it has to be the documentary, though. If it's the fucking movie that was made, the movie's a piece of shit.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The documentary is fucking scary. I think the movie was called The Last Words of Johnny Frank Garrett.
Yeah, that's the one I'm showing here. Okay,
No.
that's not it.
That's a piece of shit.
That's a piece of shit.
I'm pretty sure we could allegedly find it.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll allegedly find it somewhere.
Dude, you watch that, you're going to fucking message me immediately, and all the thing you're going to be able to say is, holy shit.
You're gonna get a text at 3 a.m. Fuck you, Steve. You ruined my night.
Here it is. 2008, The Last Word documentary takes the innocent man on Texas death row tale to a dark corner feared by all.
Yeah.
You can get it on Amazon. So
It's worth every cent.
All right, so wait, what year's the documentary? Which one's the movie? So 'cause I know-
2008. The movie is 2016. So go. So we're looking for 2008.
There's only been one cover, and it's this.
Okay.
We're gonna do a double feature with Lake Mungo.
And Joe punch me in the mouth next time he sees me.
All right, we can't go on and on about like found footage without. How about Wreck?
Rag.
Wreck is nightmare fuel, man.
Rag 2.
Rec
with
2.
fucking
I haven't watched any of the sequels yet because I love
Oh,
the
Rec
first
2
one
is
so
just
much.
as good, man.
Okay, okay.
fucking bird, dude. Rec 2 is amazing.
Rec 2 is
Rec
great.
3 is shit, but Rec 2 is fucking amazing.
And I love the fact I'm a big Possession fan too. I mean, obviously, I got the fucking Exorcist everywhere. And I love what they did with Rec, right? It wasn't like, these weren't zombies. This was supernatural shit
Yeah,
that was going on there. Possession.
Rec
So,
2 is like if Doom had a baby with The Exorcist.
yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Actually, I like two more than the original.
Are you looking forward to Flanagan's Vision?
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Because The Believer, oh Jesus, shit the bed and left it there.
You know what it is? It was the fact that it's not so much everything that was wrong with the movie. It was that everything was just so mediocre. You know what I mean?
That was always my analysis because everyone's like, "Fuck that movie! It's the worst movie ever." No, it's a
Exorcist 2 is probably way worse.
it's a good big budget popcorn possession movie.
Mhm.
As an Exorcist movie, it's dog shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
But for just your average like summer blockbuster,
Call it The fucking
you know,
Believer then. Take
yeah.
Exorcist out of it.
Yeah, if it's not horrible if you don't connect it with that franchise.
You know what movie I absolutely fucking hated was the last Crow movie. Okay?
I haven't heard a single
I didn't
good thing about
Yeah, I
it.
didn't see that one yet.
I can't even put into words how much of that movie is wrong and just missing the fucking point. But there's also this weird part of me that I'm not exactly friends with, but there is a weird part of me that says to myself, if they would have called the characters anything but Eric and Shelley, maybe I wouldn't have minded it so much.
If it was a Crow universe movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't have minded it. I wouldn't have minded it so much. But I don't know. It's like you watch The Crow is like sacred ground to me. I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I even
Yeah.
City of Angels to a certain degree, which isn't a great movie, but it was in the pocket at least.
Such a shame that we lost him that way too. He was a rising superstar.
Yeah, I was going to say, not only did you just have Brandon Lee's charisma, his natural charisma in that role, but yeah, it's just everything about that movie was lightning in a bottle, even down to the soundtrack. Like it was just perfect in so many ways.
That was another thing about the new one that drove me crazy. There is one part that they play music from the original Crow, and it's the only part of the movie that actually feels like a Crow movie, but it happens at an hour and 17 minutes after he finally puts on the makeup. It's like I'm waiting an hour and 17 minutes for you to come into the Crow. Really?
Yeah, I was going to say, from what I heard, isn't most of the movie focusing on like the relationship?
And it's not. They have no chemistry at all.
Yeah. Whereas you felt their love in that original movie,
Right.
like, and they were dead. What in the first 5 minutes?
And also, The Crow is one of the fucking few movies I could name all the bad guys because they were all memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking, they were all there.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is just generic guy in a suit number one, generic guy in a suit number two.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of a really good soundtrack, it's mainly there's a 20-minute sequence, which is arguably the best part of the movie, that's set to opera. And I'm like, no, why?
Yeah, like that original movie, like Ernie Hudson was so good in it. I forgot Ghostbusters even existed.
Yeah, that's right. He was in that. That's right.
Yeah, like even his part in that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
The Crow is one of my near perfect films. It's up there for me with John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh yeah.
I gotta say, you know what I consider a near perfect film too, and this isn't exactly a popular opinion, but Exorcist 3.
Oh yeah.
Best jump scare in a horror movie, hands down.
The best script, the monologues that
George C. Scott is a fucking legend, man.
Oh yeah.
Monologue, dude.
Oh God.
Holy shit.
Even like his relation or the chemistry again with like Kenderman.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just would have been perfectly fine watching a movie of just a week in the life of those two together.
Yeah.
Like they fucking nailed that.
Yeah, and Brad Dourif and his scenes and everything as the Gemini killer and
I die on that hill. I
love that movie. Love that movie.
Yeah, again, like no, of course the original is always going to be the gold standard. But yeah, that's possibly one of the best sequels of all time.
Yeah.
Like top three at least.
And that's why, as an Exorcist lover, I mean, I'm really looking forward to Flanagan's vision, and I hope, please, Blumhouse, please just let him do his thing. Just give him the full reign. Let him put his vision out. Doesn't need to connect like the way David Gordon Green was trying to connect every little thing to the original. Live in that universe. That's it.
You
Just
know
live in
what?
that universe and tell your own story.
You know what really annoyed me about Exorcist Believer? I was watching the trailer, and I'll never forget it. It was the first time I watched the trailer, and I'm like, did I just see Ellen Bernstein get blinded? So I
They put
rewound it and I
that in the
saw it.
trailer.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. How
I'm like,
I
insulting.
must not have watched it. I
How
probably just saw like a
insulting.
teaser or something.
if this lady is blinded in the fucking movie, I'm gonna go batshit. And yeah,
And that
that
was what, 5 minutes into her appearance? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
she
Yeah.
was. I mean, she did it for a good reason, but you know what? It didn't. It spent so much time trying to be fan service that it forgot to be a good movie.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
Amen.
it's just like the needle never moves. It just keeps at one steady thing. The only good part of that movie, number one, I thought the beginning was interesting with
Hmm.
the earthquake. I thought, okay, that's interesting. And the only other part is when he was talking to his daughter on the bed, and the demon version of her daughter was behind her. That was the
Yeah.
only part of the movie that was effective to me. But the
Yeah.
rest of it was
That's
just like,
that's another one like on par with going back to the Nightmare remake.
mhm.
Like the girls were good in it, but they were just surrounded by garbage.
Yeah, they had nothing to do, man. And I like the idea of double the exorcism. That's great. But David Gordon Green's a decent filmmaker.
He
He's
got
just
lucky with Halloween.
he's
With
just
that,
not a
with
decent horror filmmaker.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And I didn't like the fact how they tried to pull the entire community back again. It felt like I was watching, a Halloween sequel, right? Where it's like,
Evil
don't,
dies
yeah,
tonight.
yeah,
Satan dies
the
tonight.
girl gets possessed tonight.
Let's not even bring up Halloween Kills again.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, it's a
It,
sore spot for us as well.
it's like I feel my temples start throbbing. How can anyone think that the Penguin was Michael Myers? Why?
I was telling these guys I own the Halloween 2, right? 81 Halloween 2 Blu-ray, and on that Blu-ray is fucking gold because on that Blu-ray is Terror in the fucking
Niles.
Aisles, man. I used Terror in the Aisles, that poster. I would rent movies based on what I was reading on that poster, man. What a
It,
great documentary.
it breaks my heart that today's generation will never know the joys of walking in a fucking video store and seeing the badass artwork from
Oh
movies
man, yeah.
they've never even heard of.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what drew us to it, right? It was the VHS boxes. It was
It
like the
didn't matter.
artwork.
It
Yeah,
didn't matter what the fuck the movie was. It
yeah.
was the artwork.
And you didn't know shit about it unless you
Dead
read
face
about it
thing
in.
that you fucking press the button and the eyes light up and the Frankenhooker wanted.
Yeah, yeah,
I want a date.
yeah,
It was just brilliant in so many different ways. I loved
yeah.
that, especially because I was like that was like one of the first things I was able to do independently as a kid was walk to the video store.
Mhm.
Sure.
I'd spend hours in that bitch. I remember calling every day for Texas Chainsaw Massacre just for the title. I didn't know what the fuck that movie was about. It was just the fact that it was never in fucking stock used to irritate me. So I
Yeah.
pursued that movie for like months. And it didn't disappoint. It just I love that whole. If I ever have a big house, I'd love to turn like the basement into a
Well,
quasi video store.
yeah, mom and
Yeah.
pop video store. Yeah, I remember going in there and you're reading. The tenant in room 7 is very twisted, right? Very small basket case, right? I mean, it drew you in because you just see a little glimpse of Belial, and you see his hand coming out of it. Yeah,
You know what else is Blu-ray gold? Easily up there with Halloween 2 on Blu-ray. Creepshow.
Oh yeah,
What's on Creepshow?
No, go on.
Tom
Ju-
Savini's Scream Greats.
oh yeah. Is that on Creepshow on the blue for Creepshow?
Is it like a specific release or just the Blu-ray? Like, is it one of those like Arrows special editions or?
It's this one.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Is that Scream Factory, Steve?
Yes.
Okay,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's not mine. I got the shit one.
I mean, full
Tom
disclosure,
Savini's, yeah.
I only own the DVDs, so I'm way white trash on this
No, no,
one.
no, no, you're not white trash. You know why people?
Oh no, that's a badge of honor.
You know what it is? Like, you know what today? You ever see these videos of people wondering why Gen X is always fucking angry? We're the only generation who had to replace fucking cassettes to albums to cassettes, cassettes to CDs, VHS to DVD,
Amen.
DVD to Blu-ray. Now you could just fucking stream everything. We're annoyed. We're just annoyed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
We had the benefit of living through all of it, right? We had like I truly feel bad for the young generation that didn't have a chance to know what the 80s, the 70s, late 70s and the 80s were like, because to live in that time was to live. You were out hanging with your fucking friends. You weren't on a phone all day. You were doing things. You were walking around with your fucking boombox, making sure you had D cell batteries to replace for the night, right?
And that shit was heavy because of the D cell battery.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I had a boombox that had a burglar alarm on it.
Oh
shit was stupid.
Wait, you never told us you were fancy at some point.
I know. I did a few things in my youth I probably shouldn't have. Afforded myself a few luxuries.
Again, it's a Gen X thing. Yeah, we've all done things.
Dude, I was even in the book. I admit to fucking stealing comic books and fucking magazines. I had no money. I would get my horror fix any way I could.
Yeah, listen. In the book, you talked about dingleberries and the fucking clam chowder, Steve. I mean, come on now.
No, it's funny. Anyone who's listening to this that is unfamiliar with the book, they'd be like, "What the fuck are
Go fucking buy the book and read it. Trust me."
Yeah, it's weird.
Ah, shit.
That's
yeah, I think where my bitterness started firing up was so what was it, like in the 90s when Survivor came out? It was like, these assholes are getting paid to pretend to be survival. Like, no, in the 80s, we had to, that was our lives.
They didn't know nothing about that shit, dude. They didn't know that you bought newspapers to stick in your jacket to stay warm. They didn't know nothing about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We had to know that guy that had that stash out in the woods of magazines.
Yeah.
To get it. Now they could just Google like titties at any point, but
I remember risking my life to get a dime bag. Okay? Risking life and limb. Now pot is delivered to the house like fucking dollars.
Would you drive like into the Bronx somewhere? Fucking Jerome Ave.
Let's just say some locations were quite unsavory.
Oh yeah, I could imagine.
Risking my life to get high. Is what it is.
Oh man, I miss those days. I tell my wife all the time. I always say, like, back in the day. I use back in the day. I would put me in a time machine, man. Take me back to the 80s.
Again, I want you to know the last 20 minutes of this conversation, we lost whatever youth we got back from the colonoscopy incident.
At this point, fuck them. We're entertained.
That's right. I wish we had more hours, man. I need to buy you dinner and just sit there and have some drinks and talk horror all evening, man, because I don't think there's enough time in this session right here to just...
Oh, dude, I could go at it forever.
Yeah, me too, man.
It's already been 2.5 hours. Could you believe it?
No, yeah. Well, really? Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah, so I guess that puts us in that. No, you hang up first. Nobody wants this shit to end.
Except for the people who are like colonoscopy.
Yeah.
We finally pulled in that boomer demographic.
Yeah. These cell batteries. What the fuck are they talking about?
Now it's on your shoulder and dare someone to knock it off. What's that about?
Shit. But like I said, that's the great thing, is that we lived through that. I mean, we have those memories, our fucking parachute pants, right? Got a pocket everywhere, put shit everywhere.
That was part of the fun of writing the book, was kind of bringing those times to life as best I could.
Yeah.
Like fucking the TV shows like The Magic Garden and fucking the toys that were around and the fucking Steve Austin doll.
Oh yeah.
It was that to me was a lot of fun.
The plastic engine, right?
Fuck you, Kenner, is my favorite line of the whole book.
The slot cars that you could actually get a little jolt out of.
Want to hear what a cock my dad was? He didn't. This ain't in the book. I used to have that fucking Evil Knievel fucking motorcycle, right?
The crank one?
Yeah, right? So fucking I used to spend fucking hours meticulously fucking creating jumps and ramps and knowing where it's gonna land. The one time my father played with me He's like, all right, I'll help you, right? So he sets up this thing and I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, what's he doing? Right. And he goes, all right, go ahead. So I crank up the fucking thing and I let it rip and the bike goes sailing up the ramp and right out my fucking window and breaks. I was furious, dude. What a cock, you know? Ugh, bastard.
Oh man.
Fuck.
Yeah, I can go on and on, but
I'm gonna have a nice long cry tonight.
Oh,
so
well.
Steve, definitely want to take you up seriously the paranormal investigation, man. If you know,
I'm
let,
actually in the midst of setting a couple up.
let's connect because I would love to join you guys, man.
It's a
That
lot of
would be.
sitting around in the dark. Just letting you know, you'll be bored.
Hey, we could talk horror.
Yeah, I've done worse.
I was gonna say, I mean, do you have to sit there in silence?
Not particularly. I mean, there is a lot of, you don't have to sit in silence, but if you're really investigating, you shouldn't be having a long conversation that's boisterous either.
Yeah.
You know, you're there to do a certain thing. So,
Strike that then. No horror talk.
yeah, I mean, if you want to do that with me, it's for the experience.
Yeah.
You don't do it for I mean, it's a good time if something happens. It's a good time if nothing happens because at least you fucking did it and now you know what it's like, you know, how it's actually done as
Mhm.
opposed to like some of the shit you see on
Hey,
TV.
can anything like connect and latch on to you? Like, is that a thing?
Yes, I make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay. Okay. Good. Because my wife will throw me out the fucking house.
Uh, I totally get it. The only reason why I started doing it again is because my wife can clear you to make sure nothing kind of fucking attaches itself to you.
Okay.
Danielle is a very handy woman. God love her.
I feel like I know her. With the
No,
way, you know, and I love the way that you love her as well. You know, I'm like that with my wife, right? So
she's like
it's
me, but with a vagina and tits. I love her. And
that's
she's
amazing.
gorgeous and completely out of my league. And there's absolutely no reason. Like I'm like, she goes to bed with me willingly. You know? Weird. Ugh.
Well,
I
sincerely thank her for allowing you to be on here with us. So
Oh,
we appreciate that.
but seriously though, she's the only reason why that book exists. The only reason. Because I was gonna finish it and just gone, you know?
yeah.
Well, thank God
So,
she intervened
so
because
again, another one of those right place, right time.
yeah,
You
You know,
know,
I would be, yes, I've gotten a lot of where I've gotten to through an immense amount of hard work. And I'm
mhm.
not going to say that. But I would also be remiss if I didn't say I got really lucky at some of the best times in my life, you know? And I think the trick of it is when you do get lucky, to put into the work to make it work. You know what I mean? Put in the hours. Like sometimes even you guys, you do these shows, and I'm sure it happens to you as it happens to all of us. You feel like, what am I doing this? This is fucking thankless, you know? But you learn as you do it that this kind of becomes a part of you,
yeah,
extension of you, you know? And I've learned, at least for me, that if somebody digs something I did or something I created or whatever, even if it's just one person and
Mhm.
make them happy, then it was worth doing, man. Because happiness isn't easy to come by nowadays. We live in a fucking world that's a madhouse, you
yeah,
know? I mean,
yeah.
honestly, fucking T-Rexes could land in a UFO on my front lawn and I'd be like, of course they did. Of course they did. It wouldn't even fucking phase me at this point. But you do things, number one, because it gives you a creative outlet. And if if you are lucky enough, which I'm sure you guys are because you've been doing this a while, to connect with an audience who appreciates what you do. And even though you don't think you're being appreciated, trust me from my experience, because I never knew anyone was paying attention to me. The people who appreciate you the most, they don't really make noise. It's always the squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when you get to meet them and they tell you how much they appreciate what you do, it's a whole different fucking ballgame, dude. It
Yeah.
makes you feel of worth. And
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, dude. I've felt worthless more times in my life than I felt good. And it's only been these last 5 or 6 years where I feel like I finally know who I am. And it's
Mhm.
52 years to get there, you know? And I'm lucky to do what I do. I am fucking lucky to sit here with you cats and do this and record this. This is a fucking honor for me. Somebody asked me one time, because they looked behind me and they see all this fucking stuff. They're like, what's your favorite thing to collect? And I really thought about it. And it dawned on me, my favorite thing to collect is memories.
Mm-hmm.
No one could take that away.
Yeah.
Your brain could fuck up when you get older and it goes away. But for the majority of your life, that's the only thing that you have that is solely yours, that nobody, no matter what they did, tried to take away from you. So this conversation, the conversations we will have in the future, whatever, seeing each other at conventions, those are memories that I hold dear. And I'm honored to be in a position where people like you give a fuck what I have to say. So really, thank you for that.
Amen. Appreciate that. I always tell these guys too. I always said, even when I was younger, I love horror so much, and I've never been fortunate enough to kind of do anything in horror. I mean, I'm in healthcare and I love helping people, and that's an amazing career and all that. So doing this and starting it with these guys, and again, sitting here and speaking to someone like yourself, we watch the movies you're a part of, we read your book, like having the opportunity to talk horror and then have, individuals come on that are horror icons that we grew up. I mean, blessed. I mean, it's absolutely amazing that I can sit here right now and you're on the other screen and I'm talking to you about horror. I mean, it's mind blowing for me. And,
Awesome.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So
What a fucking gift, dude. And
Yeah.
and that's another reason why like people kind of freak out or don't expect me to be as accessible as I am, and as open as I am. But at the end of the day, I'm just me, man. I'm the douchebag who wanted a bagel before somebody shoved a camera up his head. And it's just the way it is, man. You gotta stay humble. The one thing George and Sid both instilled in me. Listen, I do not think I'm an icon. I do not think I'm a celebrity. I do not think I'm any of that stuff. And that's because they didn't think that they were. And they said to me, and I've seen it 100 times when they were signing at shows, they would stay until the very last person in their line, even if the show was over, got their autograph and got to meet them. And they would say to me, Steve, you got to understand something about this. Because I asked them why they did that. Why didn't they just pack up and go home? There's always tomorrow. And they each at separate times relate to me that sometimes for these people who are waiting, there isn't a tomorrow. There's what they have right now, and this is maybe the only chance that they have to talk to you. So you need to make it as fucking good of a time as possible for them. And I take that so seriously. And that's why when you come to my table at a convention or whatever, you're gonna have a good time and probably draw a cock on my face.
well, thank you for being you, Steve. We appreciate it. I mean, this has been pure gold tonight, man. This has been absolutely fun. And I hope we can, again, meet again and chat and cut it up on horror, maybe do an investigation, maybe, maybe you take us up on taking you out to dinner, having some drinks and talking some horror, man.
Don't get rid of me. I'm hanging around, man.
Love it.
Always an excellent day for a conversation.
Oh, I love it.
Wait. Are you our first stalker? Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm just the first person that told you that I really wanted a bagel as a camera was being shoved up.
Again, going back to the memories.
Yeah, I didn't even talk to him about the parties that used to go on at the Rock and Shock, man, with Sid and House and
One of my favorite
the
parts,
baked goods that went on.
oh God, one of my favorite parts of that book is the story I told where about the gumball martinis.
Yes.
I ain't gonna ruin it for you, but just to reiterate, when I tell you, you could have heard a pin drop in that moment until that fucking laugh came, and we were fucking years.
Yeah.
Hour after that.
Someone drank the gumball martini that shouldn't have.
And you know what's even funnier? 20 years later, my wife officiated her wedding.
Wow. Okay.
Crazy is that?
Wow, that's cool.
That's
cool.
That's fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts. And I love that. I love that. I love that Danielle stands behind me and understands what it is I'm trying to do because I'm only alive when I'm doing this. You know,
Hmm.
this is who I am. I
Yeah.
mean, outside, I'm always watching when we're to have somebody you could just fucking watch a movie with and chill out and talk to. I don't know what I did right in my life to deserve her, but she's brought me so much.
God bless, man. That's awesome. That's great. It's great to have a partner in your life. I mean, I'm married 21 years now.
Mm.
So yeah, she makes me a better person.
Yeah, me and Joe are the jaded ones.
I would
Bro,
not be where I am today if it wasn't for her. So
I spent my entire life making sure I never shot a kid in my dick. Not once. I was damn sure about that. And I never wanted a family because I never considered myself father material, you know.
Hmm.
And when I got married and all of a sudden I have stepchildren and fucking grandchildren, it's like I got a part of my life that I never thought I wanted, you know?
Hmm.
Especially the grandkids part, because you could have them and then give them back.
yeah,
You ain't
yeah.
got to deal with those fuckers for long. You're like, hey, this is great, right? So
Corrupt them, get them full of sugar. Go ahead.
oh, exactly,
Yeah.
dude, you know, but it's been cool. But you know what? However you're happy, whether it be on your own or just playing the field, the only thing that matters is you're happy, dude. You're not doing the wrong thing. Don't
Yeah.
ever let anyone don't ever let anyone tell you you're doing the wrong thing. You're doing what's right for you, and that's all that fucking matters.
Hmm.
Amen.
I don't think
On
we're going
that
to top any of this.
on that note, yeah, I mean,
I
it's like I was gonna do rapid fire, but I think we talked about a lot of what was in rapid fire. So
could think of at least two of them that, yeah, we're already
Let's go
thrown in there.
rapid fire,
let's go rapid fire.
and
So
then I'm gonna go upstairs and fucking cuddle and be like, don't be gone for 3 hours. Rapid fire.
all right, let's do rapid fire. Okay.
Have you
So
seen this?
oh yeah, yeah,
Stuff
there it
I've
is.
I feel like you were
There
just
it is.
talking about them.
Ain't he amazing? Look, watch.
Oh
Oh,
man.
I was going to say, does he
That
say the thing?
that's that's like the spitting image of him.
I know. I know.
Okay, so rapid fire. What would you say to someone who wanted to play with a Ouija board in your presence?
Get the fuck away from me.
On a remote island and only have this food to survive on, what is it?
Pizza.
Who gets their ass kicked in a head-to-head fight, Art or Pennywise?
I gotta go with Art, man. You know, Pennywise is supernatural, but Art's just well, I guess Art's supernatural too. It would be a knockdown, drag out, funny motherfucking fight.
There you go.
I think the edge goes to Art because he's,
Okay.
believe it or not, a little bit meaner. I think.
I shouldn't even ask this because I kind of know West Coast pizza versus East Coast pizza. Not even a thing. What's your favorite pizza place? Where do you like? Who's got the best pizza?
Wow, I mean, not living like ever.
Well, just in this area, in the Northeast here. Yeah.
Area. I like Nick and Joe's. I think they're really good.
Okay.
Like ever. There's a pizzeria in Brooklyn, still there, called L&B Spumoni Gardens that makes square slices to fucking die for.
Is
Fuck.
that the pizza place from Saturday Night Fever?
No, it's not. I wish it was because that would have been fucking cool. But in a way, I'm glad it's not because then I wouldn't have to look at their pizza and be like, fuck, now I got to drive 3 hours to Brooklyn. So
Okay. That's fine. Did you use the same Windex to clean the vomit from the car as you did with the pasta incident on your landlord's door?
crazy question. No,
Okay. I knew you had to clean it up. I was just curious. Did you use the same Windex? Because Windex cleans everything.
dude, when I can't even tell you the look my brother gave me when I came out of the Windex and I throw it to him and he catches it and looks at me and I just go,
That's classic.
first thing I thought of.
Okay. Rabid, evil possums or large man-hunting spiders? Which is more dangerous for you?
Large man hunting spiders. Fuck
Okay.
those. Listen, dude, they're monsters, dude. They
I
got
saw the picture. That thing was a fucking huge spider.
when you're a spider that's big enough to catch the fucking flash in your eyes like a goddamn dog, fuck you. You don't deserve to be alive. You know what I mean? No,
Hey, so I played softball for 30 plus years as well. So I was curious, what position did you play when you guys had your little team there?
I was either I honestly I spent most of my time as the manager setting up the games.
Okay.
Occasionally I would play catcher.
Okay.
I'd clothesline the fuck out of people trying to come home.
Have you ever recently tried to pick up a car again? And if so, was it heavier than the AMC Eagle?
Dude, I can't. I had mom strength during that, dude. You know, when
That was wild.
and it's 100% true, dude. My arms were shaking, and I'm like, Dave, could you just fucking move and just get the fucking tire up, get the other one fucking. I can't hold this thing. I lifted up the corner of that car just enough for him to change his tire. Who the fuck does not have a jack in the back of the car?
Do
Oh,
you believe in alien abduction? And do you think that caused the 3 hours of missing time?
I have absolutely no explanation for that. I do believe, I don't know if I believe in abduction. I do believe that there's shit flying around that we just don't know what the fuck it is. I don't know what happened that night. I can't really put, that's what I'm saying is like, I've lived a life where there's shit that went on in it, but I just can't explain. And I'm not making that shit up because there are tons of people who could corroborate every one of those stories.
Mhm.
So it's fucking weird, man. Maybe it's because I put myself in weird positions. I don't know. I Again, if I was somebody else on the opposite side of the fence and having read my book, I'd call bullshit on a lot of it.
You're like the Forrest Gump of like fucked up things.
Oh, I am. They just find me, you
Uh,
know?
I believed pretty much everything that was in the book. So,
Dude,
um,
I swear to you on my mom and Dave Torado, my best friend's graves, not a sentence of that, not a single sentence, with the exception of A Tale of Suffering, was made up at
yeah,
all. Everything that I wrote in that book is absolutely gospel true, and I believe that with every ounce of my conviction.
and that's why it's an amazing book and it's an amazing life. Favorite horror movie of all time?
Night of the Living Dead, 1968.
Okay. Going back to alien abduction, Fourth Kind, yes or no?
Yeah, I thought it
It
was
was,
fun.
it
I
was
thought it was a little jarring when they kept moving from the different cinematic styles, but I thought it was fun. I had a great time. I never looked at owls the same way ever again.
exactly.
I see
Exactly.
an owl now, I'm like, bitch, get away.
If you could jump in a time machine and go back to change one thing in your life, what would it be? That's a deep question, I realize.
If I could change one thing, I would have switched places with Dave on 9/11.
Wow.
There's just no doubt about that in my mind. That kid, there wasn't a mean bone in his body. That kid lit up the room everywhere. I loved him as much as a guy could love another guy without wanting to bang him. I love that kid, you know? And part of the reason why I keep going is because he didn't get a chance to. So I'm trying to honor him
Yeah.
by living a life that he would be proud of. But make no mistake, if I could have switched places with him, I would have done it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even have had to think about it.
Wow.
You have no idea how much I feel that.
Yeah, you're an amazing human being, Steve. You truly are. I got one more. Is it actually possible to eat a slice of pizza like an award-winning porn star?
Which I think we established that.
We established. As I said, we
Right.
kind of went into some of the rapid fire.
Bro, I just fucking, I wasn't, I didn't give a fuck.
Don't neglect the crust.
There was no shame in my game, bro. I got to be honest. I did when I did it, it moved.
It
Yeah.
flinched.
It knew. It knew. I was that pleased.
Steve, really, truly from the bottom of my heart, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being you. Thank you for putting that amazing book out there, which I will read time and time again. Bought 2 copies already. And
I gave one.
yeah, Dave, I'll go on Amazon. I'll buy you a copy. Or you could go to Atlanta, see if you can find my fucking backpack.
I was going to say he loved the book so much that he let somebody steal it from another state just so they
Yeah,
could
I'm like,
enjoy it.
motherfucker. So as soon as I got home, I ordered
I don't know
another.
where.
It's fucking terrible. Well, listen, thank you for having me. Thank you for taking the time to take that ride. That is that book. Thank you for caring. Thank you for doing this. And most of all, thank you for being a healthcare worker because
Appreciate
that
that.
can be enough. You guys went through the fucking ringer in the last few years. And that shit could not have been easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
So to me, people like you are the true heroes. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And Joe too. Joe works in healthcare along with us, and Danny C. So
thank you.
I'm the only eyeball on this one.
I was working in a hospital when the pandemic started, and every night the policies changing. We had to reuse masks.
Yeah.
I'll never forget those times, but I'm glad that they're over.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you. The only thing I did was play Animal Crossing.
I did play that too during the pandemic because we couldn't do that.
Matter of fact, that was the entire chapter COVID-19. It was just Animal Crossing, Animal Crossing.
I love that. I'm going through the chapter and I see COVID-19. I'm like, all right, let's get into it. Oh, okay.
It's all I did, you know. But I tried to have fun with the chapters.
Yeah.
You know? So like, and I tried to make it so like you'd know what a chapter is, but you really wouldn't know what a chapter was going to be. And I got to tell you, all of you, you ever bring me that book to sign, if there's not your own fucking scribbles on a particular goddamn page, I'm going to be very upset. And you know what I'm talking about, Cox. Okay?
Yes.
I think my favorite part about tonight is, first of all, this ended up not being an interview. This was just a conversation.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you did go into some detail, but you teased the fuck out of every aspect of this book. Like, how could nobody not be compelled to read it?
Dude, I consumed it. And I'll read it again.
Every part of it, but yet
I loved it.
nothing.
I loved it. Spoil anything for you.
You are a marketing genius, my friend.
Watch TV, play Animal Crossing, eat.
Yeah.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
That was it. That was the entire chapter.
Yeah.
If like Halloween ends, I was sorely disappointed in the novelization because there wasn't one chapter that just read nothing but Evil Dies Tonight. Like, how did you miss that opportunity? You know, it was like a gimme. How do you not do that?
Because that was like, what, 15 minutes of the movie nonstop? That was like the only dialogue.
Chasing the penguin around a hospital. That's Michael Myers, of course.
Well, Steve, listen, tell your lovely wife, Danielle, again, thank you for allowing us to spend 3 hours of this evening with you.
My pleasure.
We truly appreciate it. And we will certainly see you soon and be connecting with you again.
And I'm sure she'll just listen to this and you'll kill 3 hours of her day at work. So she's
appreciate
Let me know when you guys put this up. I'll share the link around.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
God bless, Steve. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Okay, wait. You hang up.
Listening to What an Excellent Day for a Podcast, where we use the number 4 to save you time. Check out our entire catalog at excellentdayforapodcast.com. Also on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Audible, and everywhere else you listen to podcasts. Have a question? Email us at excellentdayforapodcast@gmail.com.
But guys, I want to interact on social media.
Excellent.
Dude, we did there.
Follow us on Twitter at ExcellentDay4A. Otherwise, search for What an Excellent Day for a Podcast to get our Facebook page, our group page, Instagram, YouTube, and our newly launched Twitch channel. Come say hello, share them all,